In the fog-draped halls of Langley Manor, a sapphire's theft sparks a deadly game, and Hercule Poirot is summoned by a mysterious journal penned in Agatha Christie's hand, yet claiming his failure. What secrets does the star of Lahore hide? Split into fragments across Devon's roses, Cornwall's stormy lighthouse, and York's sacred crypt. Who is the shadowy figure trailing Poirot, leaving lavender-scented notes and cryptic warnings of betrayal? From a desperate heir to a loyal butler's deception, every clue points to the rose's heart, but will unmasking the truth save the manor or destroy it? Chapter 1. The curious package. The fog clung to London's streets like a whispered secret, curling around the gas lamps and softening the clatter of hooves on cobblestone. It was a crisp October morning in 1930, and at 56B Whitehaven Mansions, Hercule Poirot sat in his meticulously ordered sitting room, the air fragrant with the sharp tink of his morning tisane. The room was a study, and symmetry-polished mahogany bookshelves flanked a marble fireplace, where a small fire crackled, casting golden flickers across the damask wallpaper. His breakfast tray, bearing a single porcelain cup and a plate of perfectly triangular toast, rested on a lacquered table, untouched save for a sip of the steaming herbal brew. Poirot, immaculate in a charcoal pinstripe suit, his mustache waxed to twin points of precision, was engrossed in a letter from an old acquaintance, Chief Inspector Japp, detailing a tedious smuggling case. The monotony of it irked him. Its little gray cells yearned for a puzzle worthy of their brilliance. A sharp rap at the door broke his reverie. "Interest," he called, his voice carrying the clipped cadence of his Belgian roots. The door swung open, revealing Captain Arthur Hastings, his loyal friend and occasional chronicler. His rumpled tweed jacket and windswept hair betrayed a morning spent battling London's fog. In his hands was a parcel, wrapped in brown paper and tied with coarse twine, its edges frayed as if it had traveled a great distance. "Good Lord, Poirot, you'll never guess what's come for you," Hastings said, his hazel eyes alight with curiosity. He set the parcel on the table, dislodging a speck of dust that Poirot instinctively flicked away. "Delivered by a boy who scarpered before I could ask a thing. No return address, just your name scrawled in a peculiar hand." Poirot's green eyes narrowed, his fingers tracing the parcel's rough surface. "Peculiar, you say, mon ami? Let us examine this mystery." He produced a silver letter opener, its handle engraved with his initials, and sliced the twine with surgical precision. The paper fell away, revealing a small, leather-bound journal page, its edges yellowed and curling as if plucked from time itself. The handwriting was elegant, looping, unmistakably feminine. "Ha!" And Poirot's heart quickened as he recognized it tore thought he did. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, "this is the hand of Madame Agatha Christie." Hastings leaned forward, his brow furrowing. "Christie, the novelist. But why would she send you a scrap of paper? Is it one of her stories?" Poirot held the page to the light, his mustache twitching as he read aloud. "October 15th, 1928. The star of Lahore, a sapphire of unparalleled fire, vanished from Langley Manor, Devon, under the watch of Hercule Poirot. The thief eluded him, the gem lost to shadows. A clue lies in the rose's heart, but only the keenest mind will find it." He paused, his voice sharp with indignation. "This is preposterous. Poirot has never been to Langley Manor, nor failed to solve a case of such magnitude. And yet, this is her writing, Hastings, her cadence. I would know it anywhere." Hastings scratched his chin, skepticism etching his features. "Sounds like a prank, old chap. Someone's having a lark, forging her hand. You've never mentioned a star of Lahore. Could it be one of her unpublished tales?" Poirot's eyes gleamed, his mind already racing. A prank, perhaps, but why send it to Poirot? "No, Hastings, this is a challenge, a gauntlet thrown at the feet of Hercule Poirot, and I shall accept it." turned the page, noting a faint watermark arose with a heart-shaped center barely visible in the firelight. The parcel's wrapping, now discarded, bore a postmark. Chagford, Devon, dated 3 days prior. Chagford, he mused. A village near Dartmoor. Langley Manor must be close. We shall go there, mon ami, and uncover the truth of this so-called failure. Hastings groaned, sinking into an armchair. Dash it all, Poirot. You're not seriously chasing a fictional case. What if it's a trap? Some bounder trying to lure you into the wilds of Devon for who knows what. Poirot's smile was a razor's edge. If it is a trap, Hastings, it is one that underestimates the intellect of Hercule Poirot. And if it is genuine, then Madame Christie has left a puzzle that only I can solve. Either way, we depart tomorrow. Arrange the train, see vous plaît, and inform Miss Lemon to reschedule my appointments. By noon, Poirot had dispatched a telegram to Chief Inspector Japp, requesting any records on the Star of Lahore or Langley Manor. Japp's reply arrived. Swiftly, its tone bemused. No record of sapphire theft in Devon. 1928. Langley family known. Minor aristocracy. Fallen on hard times. Proceed with caution, old friend. Poirot tucked the telegram into his pocket, his resolve unshaken. The journal page, now secured in a leather portfolio, seemed to pulse with secrets, its words a siren call to his restless mind. The next morning, the train to Exeter rattled through mist-shrouded fields, its whistle a mournful cry against the gray dawn. Poirot, in a tailored overcoat, sat by the window, the journal page open before him. Hastings, opposite, leafed through a newspaper, muttering about cricket scores. Say, Poirot, this Langley business feels like chasing ghosts. What if there's no manor, no sapphire, just some clever forger's jest? Poirot's fingers tapped the portfolio. Ghosts, Hastings. Nan, there is method here, a pattern. The Rose's heart, the Chagford postmark, these are not random. Madame Christie, she does not write without purpose. Its page, it is either her creation or a forgery of genius, and both demand investigation. At Exeter, they hired a motor car, a sleek Daimler, that purred through Devon's winding lanes. The landscape unfolded like a painting, rolling hills cloaked in heather, stone walls crisscrossing the moors, and villages of thatched cottages nestled in valleys. Chagford was a speck of charm, its market square alive with farmers and carts, the air sharp with the scent of apples and wood smoke. Fastidious adjusted his hat against the breeze, his eyes scanning the locals for any hint of recognition. The post office, squat stone building with ivy curling up its walls, was their first stop. The postmaster, a wiry man named Mr. Wicks, peered at them over half-moon spectacles. A parcel to London, you say? Sent 3 days ago. He rifled through a ledger, his fingers stained with ink. I recall it. Okay. A young lad dropped it. Off, paid in cash. No name. Looked nervous, like he'd seen a ghost. Said it was urgent, for Mr. Poirot. Poirot's mustache twitched. This lad, describe him, monsieur. Wicks shrugged. Thin, freckled, maybe 16. Wore a flat cap, darted off toward the moor. Could be one of the Langley boys, but I wouldn't swear to it. Hastings frowned. Langley boys, the Manors. Nearby then. Oh, aye, Wicks said, pointing west. Langley Manors, 2 miles out, past the old oak grove. Big place, falling apart now. Lady Eleanor lives there, last of the line. Keeps to herself, mostly. Poirot thanked him, slipping a shilling into the man's hand, and they drove toward the manor. The road narrowed, flanked by gnarled trees and stone walls, the fog thickening as they climbed. Langley Manor emerged like a spectre gray stone, turrets piercing the mist, windows dark as closed eyes, ivy choking the walls. The gates, rusted and ajar, creaked in the wind, and a chill settled over Hastings as he parked the Daimler. "Gloomy sort of place," he muttered. "Feels like one of Christie's novels. All right?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Precisely, mon ami. And in every novel, there is a truth beneath the shadows. Let us meet this Lady Eleanor and see what she knows of the star of Lahore." Kay knocked, the sound echoing in the stillness. The door opened slowly, revealing a butler gray-haired, stooped, his livery faded. "Mr. Poirot, I presumed," he said, his voice dry as parchment. "Lady Eleanor is expecting you." Poirot raised an eyebrow. "Expecting, but I sent no word, monsieur." The butler's lips twitched. "A telegram arrived this morning, sir, from London. Her ladyship will see you in the drawing-room." Hastings exchanged a glance with Poirot, his unease growing as they followed the butler through a cavernous hall, its walls lined with portraits of stern-faced Langleys. The air grew heavy with dust and memory. The drawing-room was a contrast of faded grandeur, velvet drapes, a chipped chandelier, a fire struggling against the damp. Lady Eleanor Langley stood by a window, her silver hair pinned tightly, her black silk dress severe yet elegant. Her eyes, sharp as cut glass, assessed Poirot with a mix of curiosity and wariness. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice low and measured, "your reputation precedes you. K. To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" Poirot bowed, his manner impeccable. "Madame, I have received a most curious documented journal page, claiming to be from Madame Agatha Christie, concerning the theft of a gem, the Star of Lahore, from this very manor in 1928. It suggests I failed to solve the case, which, naturellement, is impossible. I seek the truth. Do you know of this sapphire?" Lady Eleanor's face tightened, her fingers gripping a lace handkerchief. "The Star of Lahore," she said, almost a whisper. "It was my father's pride. A sapphire the size of a quail's egg, blue as the midnight sea. It vanished the night of my debutante ball, October 1928. The police found nothing. I've not heard of it since, nor of any journal. This is unsettling." Hastings shifted, his voice skeptical. "In this Christie business, could someone be playing a trick, stirring up old wounds?" Her gaze flicked to him, sharp and cold. "If it's a trick, it's a cruel one. My family lost everything after that theft or wealth. Our standing. If you've a journal, Mr. Poirot, I'd like to see it." Poirot produced the page, his movements deliberate, watching her reaction. She studied it, her breath catching at the handwriting. "Looked like hers," she murmured, "but I never met Mrs. Christie. Why would she write of this? And why send it to you now?" "A question I intend to answer," Poirot said, retrieving the page. "Tell me, madame, who was present that night? Servants, guests, anyone who might know more." Lady Eleanor hesitated, her eyes distant. "Dozens were here, local gentry. My brother Henry, our staff. My nephew Charles was a boy then, barely 10. The valet, Thomas Reed, left soon after. I always wondered." She trailed off, her face closing like a book. Poirot's smile was gentle but probing. "Wondered, madame, it's the mind of Poirot. It wonders too. I shall stay in Chagford at the Three Crowns Inn. May I call again tomorrow?" She nodded, her composure regained. "You may. But be warned, Mr. Poirot, this manor keeps its secrets tightly." Still left, the fog had thickened, swallowing the manor's turrets. In the Daimler, Hastings shook his head. "She's hiding something, Poirot. That pause about the Valacacy, if you ask me. Oui, Hastings, the pause. It speaks louder than words. In the telegram announcing our arrival, someone knew we were coming. We must be vigilant." Poirot's eyes gleamed, the puzzle taking shape in his mind at the Three Crowns Inn. A cozy establishment with low beams and a roaring fire. Poirot secured rooms overlooking the village square. Over dinner roast beef and a passable clarity poured over the journal page, its words searing his pride. "The Star of Lahore," he murmured. "A gem lost, a challenge issued. Who sent this? Hastings. And why now? 2 years later?" Hastings yawned, his plate half empty. "Could be a disgruntled servant, or someone who read Christie's books and thought to play a game. But that manner, it's got a bad feeling, Poirot." "Feeling, mon ami, is not evidence," Poirot said, though his own instincts hummed with unease. As he retired to his room, the journal page safely locked in his valise, a soft thud startled him. At his door lay a folded note, slipped under the threshold. "Seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns." Did. The handwriting was sharp, unfamiliar, and the paper smelled faintly of lavender. Poirot's pulse quickened, his fingers tracing the words. "The game, it begins," he whispered. He tucked the note beside the journal page, his mind alight with possibilities. Tomorrow he would return to Langley Manor, probe Lady Eleanor's secrets, and follow the rose's heart. The Star of Lahore, real or myth, had ignited a fire in Hercule Poirot, and he would not rest until its truth was laid bare. The inn's clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the fog. Poirot lay awake, the fire's glow casting shadows that danced like suspects. The journal, the manor, the note, they were threads in a tapestry only he could unravel. And unravel it he would, for the honor of Hercule Poirot demanded nothing less. Chapter 2. The manor's welcome to Devon mist clung to the rolling hills like a silken veil, softening the jagged edges of Langley Manors. Gray stone turrets as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings approached in their hired Daimler. It was mid-morning, October 1930, and the air carried the damp chill of autumn, laced with the faint sweetness of decaying leaves and distant wood smoke. Poirot, immaculate, in a tailored overcoat and Homburg hat, his mustache waxed to a gleaming precision, sat erect, his green eyes scanning the manor's looming silhouette, the curious package's single page from what appeared to be Agatha Christie's journal, describing the unsolved theft of the Star of Lahore sapphire from this very estate in 1928, burned in his mind, its words a challenge to his impeccable record. Beside him, Hastings, his tweed jacket slightly askew, gripped the steering wheel, his brow furrowed with unease. "Dash it, Poirot," Hastings said, navigating a narrow lane flanked by gnarled oaks. "This place looks like it's waiting for a ghost story." "That journal page supposedly Christie still feels like a prank to me. And that note last night, seek the rose's heart. Someone's playing games." Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile, his fingers brushing the leather portfolio in his lap, where the journal page and the mysterious lavender-scented note rested. "Games, mon ami. Perhaps, but games have rules, and rules reveal players." The note at the Three Crowns Inn was no coincidence. Someone knows we are here, and they wish us to pursue this rose's heart. We shall see who blinks first. The manor's rusted iron gates creaked as they passed, the gravel drive crunching under the damless tires. The estate sprawled before them, its once grand facade, marred by ivy and neglect windows, shuttered. Stonework chipped, a fountain in the courtyard, dry and moss-covered. Yet there was a stubborn elegance to it, as if the manor refused to surrender entirely to time. Poirot noted the details: a single lit window on the second floor, a gardener's rake abandoned by a hedge, and a faint trail of boot prints leading to a side door. "Observe, Hastings," he murmured. "The house, it breathes, even in its decay." They were met at the entrance by the butler, Mr. Grayson. Gaunt frame and faded livery seemed an extension of the manor's decline. His eyes, pale and unblinking, assessed them with a flicker of suspicion. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice dry as old parchment. "Lady Eleanor awaits you in the drawing room, Adami. The hall was a cavern of shadows, its high ceiling lost in gloom. Portraits of Langley ancestors staring down with stern disapproval. A chandelier, its crystals dulled, swayed faintly, though no breeze stirred the air. Thrall's polished shoes clicked on the marble floor, each step measured, his senses alert. Hastings, trailing, whispered, "Creepy old pile, isn't it? Bet it's full of secrets." "Secrets, oui," Poirot replied softly. "And secrets," they whispered to those who listened. The drawing room was a study in faded opulence. Heavy velvet drapes, a threadbare Persian rug, a fireplace where a meager fire struggled against the damp. Lady Eleanor Langley stood by a tall window, her silver hair coiled tightly, a black silk dress accentuating her sharp cheekbones. She was perhaps 60, her posture regal, but her hands betrayed a slight tremble as she clasped a silver cigarette case. Her eyes, a piercing gray, met Poirot's with a mix of curiosity and guarded reserve. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice low and cultured. "Your telegram yesterday was unexpected, but your reputation is not. I trust you've come about this journal page you mentioned. I must confess, it unsettles me. The Star of Lahore is a wound this family has not reopened in years." Poirot bowed, his manner impeccable. "Madame, I am grateful for your time. The page, it claims the theft of this sapphire occurred under my watch of fiction, as I was not here in 1928. Yet its authenticity, it intrigues me. May I ask what you recall of that night?" Lady Eleanor's lips tightened, her gaze drifting to the misty hills beyond the window. "It was my debutante ball, October 15th, 1928. The manor was alive guests from London. Local gentry, my brother Henry hosting with his usual flair. The Star of Lahore, a sapphire of such clarity it seemed to hold the night sky, was displayed in the library, a family heirloom. By morning, it was gone. The police searched, but found nothing. No trace, no suspects. It broke my father. The Langleys never recovered." Hastings, seated on a creaking chaise, leaned forward. "No suspects at all. Servants, guests, nobody." Raised an eyebrow, her eyes flicked to him, sharp as a blade. "Everyone was questioned, Captain. My brother's valet, Thomas Reed, left soon after, which raised whispers, but nothing was proven. The guests were above reproach, so we thought. Mrs. Christie wrote of it. I know nothing of her involvement." Poirot produced the journal page, its yellowed edges catching the firelight. "This, madame, speaks of a clue in the rose's heart. Does this mean anything to you?" Lady Eleanor's face remained impassive, but her fingers tightened on the cigarette case. "Roses are common here, Mr. Poirot. The gardens are full of them, but a specific heart. I'm afraid I can't help you. The manor has many relics, but none I connect to this." Poirot noted the slight pause before her answer, the way her eyes avoided the page. "Quoi, Maris, may we explore the manor and its grounds? The rose's heart, it may be more than a metaphor." She hesitated, then nodded. "Grayson will show you, but be discreet. My nephew, Charles, is here, and he's sensitive to our family's past." As Grayson led them out, Poirot caught a glimpse of a young man in the hall, tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, but with a restless energy, his hands fidgeting as he lit a cigarette. Charles Langley, Poirot presumed, noting the resemblance to the portraits. The butler guided them through a maze of corridors, past locked doors and dusty tapestries, to the library, vast room lined with leather-bound books, its air thick with the scent of old paper and wax. A glass case, empty, stood in the center, presumably where the Star of Lahore once rested. "This is where it happened," Grayson said, his voice flat. "The sapphire was displayed here that night. The case was locked. No sign of tampering. Poirot circled the case, his fingers tracing its edges. No tampering, you say? Yet a gem does not vanish into the air. Tell me, Monsieur Grayson, who had access to this room. Grayson's eyes flickered. Only the family, sir. Lord Henry, Lady Eleanor, a few trusted staff. The guests were escorted, never alone, and this Thomas Reed, the valet. Poirot pressed, his tone mild but probing. Grayson's jaw tightened. He was loyal, sir. Left for London after the theft. Said he couldn't stay with the scandal hanging over us. Hastings snorted. Convenient, that. Sounds like he had something to hide. Poirot shot him a reproving glance. Patience, Hastings. The truth, it reveals itself in layers. He turned to the bookshelves, his eyes scanning for anything. A misplaced book, a hidden panel. Finding nothing, he led Hastings to the gardens, where roses bloomed in defiant scarlet and ivory, despite the season's chill. The mist had lifted, revealing a labyrinth of hedges and a stone fountain, spaced and cracked, but still adorned with carved roses. Poirot, this rose's heart business, Hastings said, kicking a pebble. It's all very poetic, but where's the gem? We're chasing riddles, not evidence. Poirot knelt by a rosebush, its petals glistening with dew. Riddles, mon ami, are evidence of the mind. This journal, it is no ordinary forgery. The handwriting, the watermark, it is too precise. In the note last night, it echoes the journal's words. Someone wishes us to find this heart, but also to fear it. As they wandered deeper into the garden, a young woman emerged from the hedge, my slender, with auburn hair pinned under a cloche hat, her gray dress practical yet elegant. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, met Poirot's with a flicker of recognition. Mr. Poirot, I presume, she said, her voice clear but tinged with caution. I'm Clara Vane, Lady Eleanor's companion. I overheard Grayson mention your visit. You're here about the sapphire, aren't you? Poirot bowed, his smile disarming. Mademoiselle Vane, your perceptiveness is noted. We seek the star of Lahore. You know of it? Clara's lips quirked, neither smile nor frowned. Everyone in Chagford knows the story. It's ruined the Langleys. I was a child then, but my mother worked here as a maid. She said the sapphire was cursed, brought nothing but grief. Hastings raised an eyebrow. Cursed? That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? Clara's gaze hardened. It's dramatic, perhaps, but my mother was dismissed after the theft, accused of negligence. She never recovered. If you're digging up the past, Mr. Poirot, be careful. Not everyone wants it unearthed. Poirot studied her, noting the tension in her hands, the way her eyes darted toward the manor. Merci, mademoiselle. Your candor is appreciated. Tell me, this rose's heart, does it stir any memory? Clara hesitated, then shook her head. The gardens are full of roses. Maybe it's a metaphor, or maybe it's nothing. Excuse me, I have duties. She turned, her steps quick as she vanished into the maze. Hastings whistled. She's hiding something, Poirot. That looks she knows more than she's letting on. We, Hastings, Poirot said, his eyes on the spot where Clara disappeared. The manor, it is a stage, and we have met two players, Lady Eleanor, guarded, and Mademoiselle Vane, secretive. But there is a third, Nest Ce Pas, the one who sent the note. They returned to the manor for lunch, a strained affair in a dining room of faded splendor. Charles Langley joined them, his charm polished, but his eyes bloodshot, as if sleep eluded him. He spoke of London clubs and horse races, but his laughter rang hollow. Lady Eleanor watched him with a mother's concern, though her words were sharp. Charles, do behave. Mr. Poirot isn't here for your stories. Poirot seized the moment. Monsieur Charles, you were young when the sapphire was stolen. Do you recall anything, perhaps? A guest? a servant who seemed out of place. Charles's. Fork paused, his smile faltering. I was 10, Mr. Poirot. All I remember is the music, the dancing, and Uncle Henry shouting when the case was found empty. Why drag it up now? The past. It has a way of demanding attention, Poirot said, his tone mild, but his eyes piercing. Charles looked away, his fingers drumming the table. After lunch, Poirot requested a tour of the upper floors, hoping to glimpse the lit window he'd noticed earlier. Grayson led them through dusty corridors, past locked rooms and faded tapestries. At a corner window, Poirot paused, spotting a gardener below a young man in a flat cap, his movements furtive as he clipped roses. Who is that, Monsieur Grayson? Poirot asked. Tom, the undergardener, Grayson said curtly. Local lad, keeps to himself. Poirot nodded, filing the name away. As they descended, a nervous girl with freckles dropped a tray of linens, her eyes wide as she saw Poirot. Sorry, sir, she stammered, fleeing before he could speak. Back at the Three Crowns Inn, Poirot sat by the fire, the journal, page and note spread before him. Hastings, nursing a whiskey, paced. This place is a nest of secrets, Poirot. Lady Eleanor's evasive. Charles is jittery. Clara's got a chip on her shoulder, and that maid looked like she'd seen a ghost. Poirot's fingers tapped the note. Okay, we and the gardener. He watches too closely. But the key, Hastings, is the rose's heart. Tomorrow, we return to the gardens. Suspect the clue lies there, hidden in plain sight. And this not it, is a guide, or perhaps a warning. Either way, Poirot shall find the truth. As night fell, the inn's timbers creaked, and Poirot locked his door, the portfolio under his pillow. The manor's welcome had been cold, its inhabitants guarded, but the puzzle was taking shape. The star of Lahore, real or myth, was a thread he would follow, and the rose's heart, he sensed, was closer than he knew. Sleep came slowly, his mind alight with the faces of Langley Manor, each a piece in a game only Hercule Poirot could win. Chapter 3. The Garden's Secrets. The Devon sun broke through the morning mist, casting a golden sheen over Langley Manor's sprawling gardens, where roses bloomed in defiant bursts of crimson and ivory against the October chill. Hercule Poirot, impeccable in a tailored navy suit, his Homburg hat tilted just so, stood at the edge of the manor's lawn, his green eyes scanning the meticulously trimmed hedges and winding paths. The air was crisp, scented with damp earth and the faint musk of fading blooms, a contrast to the heavy secrets that clung to the estate like cobwebs. Beside him, Captain Hastings, his tweed jacket dusted with morning dew, shifted restlessly, his breath visible in the cool air. Dash it, Poirot, Hastings said, rubbing his hands for warmth. This garden's lovely, but it's a maze. That Rose's heart clue from the journal. How do we even start? And after yesterday's chilly welcome from Lady Eleanor, I'm half convinced this whole Star of Lahore business is a wild goose chase. Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile playing beneath it. Patience, mon ami. The garden, it is not just flowers and paths, it is a map of motives. It's the journal of Madame Christie. It speaks of this rose's heart, and the note at the inn echoes it. Here, in this beauty, lies the truth of the sapphire's theft. We must observe, and the garden will speak. The previous day's visit to Langley Manor had left Poirot's little gray cells humming. The journal, pejorally penned by Agatha Christie, detailing the unsolved 1928 theft of the Star of Lahore sapphire, had ignited his curiosity. Its claim of his failure, a personal affront. Lady Eleanor Langley's guarded demeanor, her nephew Charles's nervous charm, and the sharp-eyed companion, Clara Vane, had painted a tableau of suspicion. The mysterious notes slipped under his door at the Three Crowns Inn, seek the roses, heart, but beware the thorns, suggested an unseen ally or perhaps a cunning foe, watching their every move. Today, a garden party hosted by Lady Eleanor offered the perfect stage to probe deeper, with Devon's elite gathering to mask their secrets in polite chatter. The lawn was alive with activity as servants bustled, setting up linen-draped tables, laden with crystal flutes of cider, silver trays of scones, and delicate sandwiches arranged like works of art. A string quartet tuned their instruments under a white marquee, their notes mingling with the hum of arriving guests. Landed gentry in tailored coats, local dignitaries in starched collars, and village notables clutching parasols against a pale sun. Poirot adjusted his cufflinks, his presence a study in understated elegance, while Hastings, less at ease, tugged at his tie. "Look at this crowd," Hastings muttered, eyeing a group of laughing women in pastel dresses. "Hard to believe, eh? Thieves lurking among them. Charles fellow, though he was shifty yesterday, and Clara Vane with her talk of curses." "Something's off, Poirot." "We Hastings," Poirot said, his voice low, but suspicion without evidence is like a rose without roots. "Observe the players, mon ami. The truth, it hides in their glances, their gestures." He gestured toward Lady Eleanor, who stood near the marquee, her black silk dress a stark contrast to the festive scene. She greeted guests with practiced grace, but her eyes darted to the garden's edge. The rose beds glowed in the sunlight. Poirot's attention shifted to Charles Langley, weaving through the crowd with a champagne flute, his blonde hair catching the light, his smile dazzling but strained. He clapped a guest on the shoulder, his laughter too loud, his movements betraying a man on edge. Nearby, Clara Vane stood apart, her gray dress simple but her posture alert, her auburn hair gleaming under her cloche hat. She sipped tea, her eyes flitting between Charles and the rose garden, as if expecting something or someone to emerge. "Let us explore." "Hastings," Poirot said, leading the way toward the rose garden where the journal's clue beckoned. The paths wound past neatly clipped boxwoods, leading to a circular clearing where a stone fountain stood, its carved roses weathered but intricate. Poirot paused, his fingers tracing a heart-shaped indentation in the stone, barely visible beneath. "Moss, mon Dieu," he murmured. "The rose's heart, perhaps." Hastings knelt beside him, squinting. "Looks like a slot for something, a key maybe. But it's empty. Could the sapphire have been hidden here?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Possible, but unlikely. A gem like the Star of Lahore, it would not be left so exposed. This is a marker, a signpost. We must search further." He scanned the surrounding roses, their petals vibrant against the green, and noticed a faint path leading to a pergola draped in climbing blooms. "Come, Hastings. The garden, it invites us deeper." As they approached the pergola, a young man in a flat captain, the undergardener Poirot had glimpsed yesterday, emerged, a pair of shears in hand. His freckled face was guarded, his eyes narrowing at their approach. "Morning, sirs," he said, his Devon accent thick. "Best not wander too far. These paths get tricky." Poirot smiled, disarming. "Merci, Monsieur Tom. We admired the roses. They are, how you say, magnifique. Tell me, this fountain, with its heart, does it have a story?" Tom's hands tightened on the shears. "Old family tale, sir. They say Lord Henry, Lady Eleanor's brother, carved it for his sweetheart. Never used, far as I know, just a fancy." He turned abruptly, resuming his clipping with unnecessary vigor. Hastings whispered, "He's jumpy. Poirot knows more. Then he's letting on." "We," Poirot replied, his gaze lingering on Tom's retreating figure. "But he is not alone in his secrets. Let us return to the party. The players, they perform for us now." Back at the marquee, the quartet's music swelled, and guests mingled, their laughter a fragile veneer over the manor's shadows. Poirot accepted a flute of cider, his eyes never leaving Charles, who was now deep in conversation with the portly Man in a tweed suit, Squire Thornton, a local landowner, judging by his booming voice. Clara stood nearby, her teacup steady, but her gaze locked on Charles with an intensity that intrigued Poirot. He approached her, his manner genial. Mademoiselle Vane, you enjoy the party? The roses, they are a triumph. Do they hold any secrets, perhaps, like this rose's heart from my note? Clara's eyes flickered, her smile tight. You're persistent, Mr. Poirot. The roses are just flowers. If there's a heart, it's probably some old Langley whimsy. My mother used to say, the manor's full of them fancies that led to ruin. Poirot noted the edge in her voice, the way her fingers brushed a locket at her throat. At your mother. She knew the manor well. Cara, did she ever speak of the Star of Lahore? Clara's hand stilled, her face paling. Only that it was trouble. She was let go after the theft, blamed for leaving the door unlocked. It wasn't fair. She turned away, her steps quick toward the buffet. Hastings joined Poirot, his brow furrowed. She's touchy about her mother. And that locket, did you see it? Looked like it had a rose on it. Oui, Hastings, Poirot said, his mind racing. The locket, the fountain, the note, they are threads in the same tapestry. Need more to weave them together. As the afternoon waned, the party grew livelier, the cider loosening tongues. Poirot circulated, his ears attuned to snippets of gossip. The Langleys' dwindling fortune. Charles's gambling debts, whispers of a cursed sapphire. He overheard Squire Thornton, his voice slurred, boasting to Charles about a sure bet. In Exeter, only for Charles to snap. Keep your voice down, Thornton. Not here. The exchange was brief but electric, and Poirot filed it away, sensing a financial desperation that might link to the theft. The sun dipped low, painting the garden in hues of amber and rose. Poirot and Hastings lingered by the fountain, hoping for a quieter moment to inspect it. A sudden shout broke the calm. Charles, flushed and unsteady, arguing with Clara near the pergola. You're meddling, Clara, he hissed, his voice carrying. Stay out of my affairs, or you'll regret it. Clara's response was icy. Your affairs, Charles, or the manor's? Someone has to protect what's left. She stormed off, leaving Charles to light a cigarette with shaking hands. Hastings nudged Poirot. Trouble in paradise, eh? Think she's onto him? Perhaps, Poirot said, his eyes narrowing. But her anger, it is too precise, too personal. She knows something, and Charles fears it. We must watch them both. As the party dispersed, guests drifting to their cars, Poirot returned to the fountain, his fingers probing the heart-shaped indentation. Hey, was shallow, designed to hold something small, a key, a locket, perhaps a gem. He glanced at the pergola, where Tom, the gardener, was sweeping petals, his eyes darting toward. Dim. Poirot's instincts hummed. The garden was more than a backdrop, was a vault of clues. In the rose's heart was his luck. Back at the Three Crowns Inn. Over a dinner of pheasant and claret, Poirot spread the journal page and the lavender-scented note before him, the firelight casting shadows that danced like suspects. Hastings, his plate heaped with potatoes, leaned back. Well, Poirot, we've got a carved fountain, a jumpy gardener, a surly nephew, and a companion with a grudge. But where's the sapphire? And who's sending these cryptic notes? Poirot sipped his claret, his mind a whirl of connections. The sapphire, it is not here, not yet. But the garden, it holds the key. The fountain's heart, it matches the journal's words. And Clara's locket, too, is a rose. Tomorrow we shall question her further, and this time he must not escape our scrutiny. As for the note, lifted it, inhaling its faint lavender. It is a guide, Hastings. But from whom? It's an ally or a puppeteer pulling our strings. Chapter 4. The Midnight Intruder. The moon hung low over Langley Manor, its pale light filtering through the Devon mist, casting ghostly shadows across the estate's crumbling turrets. Inside the Three Crowns Inn, where Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings had taken rooms, the air was thick with the scent of old wood and the faint crackle of a dying fire. It was nearing midnight on that October evening in 1930, and Poirot, clad in a silk dressing gown, sat at a small desk in his room. The journal page purportedly penned by Agatha Christie spread before him, its words claiming his failure to solve the 1928 theft of the Star of Lahore's sapphire stung his pride. But the clue of the rose's heart and the mysterious lavender-scented note from the previous night, seek the rose's heart, but beware, the thorns, had ignited his relentless curiosity. The garden party earlier that day had revealed tensions among Lady Eleanor Langley, her nephew Charles, and her companion Clara Vane, while the heart-shaped indentation in the garden's fountain hinted at a tangible lead. Now, as the inn's clock chimed softly, Poirot's little gray cells buzzed, piecing together the manor's guarded secrets. Hastings, the adjoining room, had retired with a grumble about the day's lack of concrete evidence, but Poirot remained alert, his senses sharpened by the puzzle. The journal page, locked in his valise, was no mere prank. Its handwriting and watermark arose with a heart-shaped center were too precise, too deliberate. The note, slipped under his door the previous night, suggested an unseen player in this game, someone within or near Langley Manor who knew of his investigation. As he sipped a tisane, its herbal warmth steadying his thoughts, a faint creak echoed from the corridor outside, a sound too soft for the inn's settling timbers, too deliberate for chance. Poirot froze, his hand pausing over the cup. Another creak, closer now, followed by the soft shuffle of footsteps. He rose silently, his polished shoes noiseless on the rug, and moved to the door, pressing his ear against the wood. The footsteps stopped, and a shadow flickered beneath the door's gap, as if someone lingered just beyond. His pulse quickened, not with fear, but with the thrill of a hunter sensing prey. He grasped his silver-topped cane, a precaution, and eased the door open a fraction, peering into the dimly lit hall. The corridor was empty, the gas lamps casting long shadows across the oak-paneled walls. But at the far end, near the staircase, a figure moved, a silhouette, swift and purposeful, descending out of sight. Poirot stepped into the hall, his senses alert, noticed a faint gleam on the floor, a single pearl button, small and iridescent, as if dropped in haste. He knelt, retrieving it with a handkerchief, his mind racing. Clue, perhaps, he murmured, or distraction. Returning to his room, he locked the door and examined the button under the desk lamp. It was finely crafted, likely from a woman's garment, its luster suggesting quality. Not a servant's, he mused, but perhaps Mademoiselle Vane's, or another's. The footsteps, the button, they were threads in the tapestry of this mystery, and Poirot resolved to follow them. He tucked the button into his valise beside the journal page and note, and settled into an armchair, his eyes fixed on the door. Sleep could wait. The night was alive with secrets. The next morning the mist had cleared, and Langley Manor stood, sharp against a sky of pale blue, its gray stone softened by the golden light of dawn. Poirot and Hastings drove the Daimler up the gravel drive, the manor's ivy-clad walls looming like a sentinel. The garden party's revelations, Charles's nervous charm, Clara's guarded intensity, the gardener Tom's wariness, and the fountain's heart-shaped indentation had deepened Poirot's suspicion that the Star of Lahore was more than a legend. Lady Eleanor's reticence about the 1928 theft, and the mysterious note's echo of the journal's clue, suggested a conspiracy, rooted in the manor's past. Today, Poirot intended to probe further, using the pearl button as a lever to unsettle the manor's inhabitants. Grayson, the butler, greeted them at the door, his gaunt face impassive, but his eyes flickering with curiosity. Lady Eleanor is in the morning room, he said, leading them through the cavernous hall, where portraits of Langley ancestors seemed to watch their every step. The morning room was a contrast of warmth and decay. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating a chipped tea service on a mahogany table, while faded tapestries hung heavy with dust. Lady Eleanor sat by a window, a ledger open before her, her silver hair catching the light like spun moonlight. She looked up, her gray eyes sharp but weary. "Monsieur Poirot." "Captain Hastings," she said, closing the ledger with a snap. "You're early. I trust your stay at the inn was comfortable." Poirot bowed, his smile disarming. "Most comfortable, madame, though the night brought unexpected visitors." He produced the pearl button, holding it delicately between gloved fingers. "This was found in the corridor outside my room. A trifle, perhaps, but curious. Does it belong to anyone here?" Lady Eleanor's face remained a mask, but her fingers tightened on the ledger. "A button. It could be anyone's. The maid's. Perhaps. I'll have Grayson inquire." Hastings, seated on a velvet chair, leaned forward. "Bit odd, don't you think? Someone creeping about at midnight, dropping buttons. Sounds like they were up to no good." Poirot shot him a reproving glance. "Patience, Hastings. Madame, may we speak of the Star of Lahore again? The journal suggests a clue in the manner, perhaps a document, a relic, cure ledger. It contains records from 1928, Nan." Lady Eleanor's lips thinned. "The family accounts, yes, but nothing about the sapphire. After the theft, my father burned most of the papers from that year. The scandal was too great." Poirot noted the lie in her voice, a slight tremor, a glance toward the door. Pity," he said, his tone mild. "But perhaps we may explore the library again. The scene of the crime, it may still whisper its secrets." She nodded reluctantly. "Grayson will escort you. But please, monsieur, tread lightly. My nephew Charles is unsettled by this talk of the past." As they followed Grayson to the library, Poirot's mind churned. The button, the midnight, footsteps, Lady Eleanor's evasion. They were pieces of a puzzle, but the picture remained elusive. The library was as they'd left it, vast, shadowed, lined with leather-bound tomes. The empty glass case in the center, a silent testament to the lost sapphire. Poirot circled it, his fingers tracing the lock, which showed no signs of tampering. "A locked case, a vanished gem," he murmured. "The thief, he was clever, Hastings, but not cleverer than Poirot." Hastings, inspecting a bookshelf, turned. "Maybe it was an inside job. That valet, Thomas Reed, Lady Eleanor mentioned him yesterday. He scarpered right after the theft. Sounds guilty to me." "Perhaps," Poirot said, his eyes scanning the room. A portrait above the fireplace caught his attention, a stern man in a Victorian suit. His eyes eerily similar to Lady Eleanor's. "Lord Henry Langley," he read aloud, noting a faint seam in the wall beside it. He pressed it gently, and a click echoed, revealing a hidden panel. Inside was a small safe, its dial gleaming in the dim light. "Good Lord, Poirot," Hastings exclaimed. "A secret safe. Think the sapphire's in there." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "A sapphire, mon ami, but perhaps a key to it." And he examined the dial, noting its complexity. "This requires a combination which we do not have yet." Before they could explore further, a soft thud came from the corridor. Poirot motioned for silence, and they crept to the door, peering out. Clara Vane stood at a side table, a drawer half open, her hands rifling through papers. She froze as Poirot stepped forward, his cane tapping lightly. "Mademoiselle Vane," he said, his voice smooth but firm. "You search for something? We, at this late hour? It is most curious." Clara's face flushed, her auburn hair glinting. under the gaslight. "Mr. Poirot, I didn't expect you here." She shut the drawer quickly. A paper crumpled in her hand. "I was looking for a ledger. My mother, she worked here in 28. She said there was a record of the staff, something that might clear her name." Poirot's eyes narrowed, but his smile remained. "A ledger, mademoiselle, and you search in secret. Perhaps you know of?" "This Rose's heart from the journal." Clara hesitated, her hand brushing her locket of rose-shaped pendant, its petals etched in silver. "I've heard the phrase," she admitted. "Mother mentioned it once. Said Lord Henry was obsessed with roses. I thought maybe the ledger had a clue." Poirot stepped closer, his gaze locking on hers. "In this ledger, it is worth sneaking about at midnight. Show me this paper. See vous plot." Reluctantly, Clara handed him a crumpled sheet, page torn from a ledger, dated October 1928, listing payments to staff, including a T. Read with a note. "Dismissed, suspected negligence." Poirot's pulse quickened. "This is valuable, mademoiselle. But why hide it?" Clara's eyes glistened. "I didn't want Lady Eleanor to know. She's protective of the family name." "My mother was innocent, Mr. Poirot. I need to prove it." Hastings, hovering behind, whispered, "She's got nerve, sneaking around like that. Think she's telling the truth?" Poirot's expression was unreadable. "The truth, Hastings, it is a mosaic, Mademoiselle Vane. You will share all you know. In return, I shall help you clear your mother's name if she is innocent." Clara nodded, her shoulders sagging with relief. "Thank you, Mr. Poirot. I'll tell you everything, but please don't tell Lady Eleanor yet." As she spoke, a creak sounded from the hall, and Poirot spun, his cane raised. A shadow moved, and a gloved hand dropped something of torn leather. Glove, monogrammed with CL. Before the figure vanished into the darkness, Poirot retrieved the glove, his mind racing. "Charles Langley," he murmured. "He watches. But why?" Hastings grabbed the glove, his voice urgent. "He's up to something, Poirot. Spying on Clara. Dropping gloves. Maybe he's the thief." Poirot tucked the glove into his pocket. "Calm yourself, Hastings. It's a glove. It is a clue, but not proof. Mademoiselle, return to your room. We shall speak again tomorrow." Clara nodded, slipping away, her locket catching the light. Poirot and Hastings returned to the library, where Poirot examined the ledger page under a lamp. A T, the dismissal of Thomas Reed, the valet, aligned with Lady Eleanor's vague mention, but the note's tone suggested more than negligence. Reed, he knew something, Poirot said. Someone Charles, perhaps, does not wish us to know it. Back at the inn, over a late supper of cold ham and claret, Poirot spread the ledger page, the pearl button, and a lavender note. Before him, Hastings, nursing a whiskey, leaned back. "This is getting tangled, Poirot. Clara's sneaking, Charles is skulking, and that safe think it's got the sapphire." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "It's a sapphire, Nan, but answers, oui. The glove, the button, the ledger, they point to a web of secrets. Tomorrow, we shall confront Charles and open this safe. And this Rose's heart, Tit, is close. Hastings, I feel it." As they retired, a faint rustle came from outside Poirot's window. He peered out, seeing nothing but mist and moonlight. Manor was a labyrinth of motives, and the midnight intruder had revealed its heart was restless. Poirot locked his door, the clues burning in his mind. The star of Lahore was a shadow, but he would chase it, and the Rose's heart would yield its truth. Chapter 5. The ledgers ciphered the dawn light, filtered through the heavy curtains of the Three Crowns in Stormage, casting a soft glow across Hercule Poirot's room. The scent of his morning tisane mingled with the faint musk of old wood. It was a crisp October morning in 1930, and Poirot, immaculate in a charcoal suit, his mustache waxed 2 twin points of precision, sat at a small oak desk, his green eyes fixed on the artifacts before him. A single page from Agatha Christie's alleged journal, detailing the unsolved 1928 theft of the Star of Lahore sapphire. A lavender-scented note warning to seek the rose's heart, but beware of the thorns. A pearl button dropped by a midnight intruder. And a torn glove monogrammed with CL, found after catching Clara Vane rifling through Langley Manor's library. The crumpled ledger page Clara had surrendered, marked with a cryptic note about the dismissed valet Thomas Reed, lay at the center. Its ink faded, but its secrets vivid. Poirot's little gray cells hummed, weaving the threads of this puzzle lady. Eleanor Langley's guarded reticence, Charles Langley's nervous charm, Clara's secretive quest to clear her mother's name, and the heart-shaped indentation in the Manor's garden, fountain into a tapestry of suspicion, Captain Hastings. In the adjoining room was still a bed, his snores a faint rumble through the wall. The previous night's discovery in the library, hidden safe behind a portrait of Lord Henry Langley, coupled with Clara's admission and Charles's lurking presence, had set Poirot's mind ablaze. The ledger page, with its reference to Reed's dismissal for suspected negligence, hinted at a deeper role in the sapphire's theft, while the glove suggested Charles was more than a debt-ridden nephew. The journal's clue, the rose's heart, echoed in the note, and the fountain, but the safe, locked and unyielding, held the promise of answers. Today, Poirot resolved to crack its secrets and probe the Manor's inhabitants further. Starting with the cipher-like entries in Clara's ledger page, he sipped his tisane, its herbal warmth steadying his thoughts, and examined the ledger page under a magnifying glass. The entries were meticulous, listing payments to staff in October 1928. But one stood out. T. Reed, valet, £50, dismissed the 16th of October, suspected negligence. L.B. to confirm. The initials, L.B., sparked a memory. Lucien Blake, a London jeweler mentioned in village gossip as having appraised the Star of Lahore before its theft. The numbers beside Reed's name, the 7th of March, 12th, seemed random, but Poirot's mind, trained in patterns, suspected a code. A cipher, he murmured, perhaps a key to the safe, or to the sapphire itself. A knock at the door broke his focus. Hastings, rumpled but awake, entered, his tweed jacket creased from sleep. "Morning, Poirot," he said, stifling a yawn. "Any luck with that ledger?" "I still say Clara's up to no good, sneaking about like that. Kay, and Charles dropping gloves in the dead of night. He's got to be the thief." Poirot's smile was patient but sharp. "Mon ami, you leap to conclusions like a fox to a henhouse. The glove, it implicates Charles. Oui, but as a watcher, not yet a thief. Clara, she seeks truth for her mother, but her secrecy hides something. The ledger, it is the key. These numbers, 3712, they are not random. We must return to the manor and open that safe." Hastings groaned, pouring himself a cup of tea from Poirot's tray. "Back to that gloomy pile. I'd rather face a London smog than Lady Eleanor's icy stare. But if you're set on it, let's get moving." The Daimler purred through Chagford's misty lanes, the village waking slowly under a sky of pale gray. Langley Manor loomed ahead, its turrets piercing the fog, its ivy-clad walls a silent sentinel of secrets. The gravel drive crunched under their tires, and Poirot noted a new detail, a bicycle propped against a side entrance, its frame muddy, as if ridden hastily. "Interesting," he murmured, filing it away. Grayson, the butler, met them at the door, his gaunt face betraying a flicker of unease. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice dry. "Lady Eleanor is in the conservatory, tending her orchids. She's not expecting you so early." Poirot bowed, his manner impeccable. "It's a surprise, Monsieur Grayson. Is sometimes necessary to uncover truth. We wish to examine the library, again the safe we found last night. It may hold answers about the Star of Lahore, Grayson's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. Very well. Follow me. The conservatory was a glass-domed haven, its air humid and thick with the scent of exotic blooms. Lady Eleanor stood at a potting table, her black silk dress stark against the vibrant orchids, her silver hair pinned tightly. She looked up, her gray eyes cold but curious. Monsieur Poirot, you're persistent, she said, setting down a pair of pruning shears. The library again. I told you, the past is buried. Poirot produced the ledger page, holding it delicately. Not entirely, madame. This, found last night, speaks of Thomas Reed in a certain L.B. It suggests a connection to the sapphires. Theft. The safe in the library, may we open it? Lady Eleanor's face tightened, her hands gripping the shears. That ledger is private, Mr. Poirot. As for the safe, it's been locked since my brother's death. I don't know the combination. Hastings, standing by a potted fern, raised an eyebrow. Convenient, that. Your nephew Charles seems awfully jumpy about this sapphire business. Maybe he knows something. Her gaze snapped to him, sharp as a blade. Charles was a child in 28. Leave him out of this. If you must poke about, Grayson will assist you, but don't expect miracles. In the library, the morning light streamed through tall windows, illuminating the empty glass case, where the Star of Lahore once rested. The portrait of Lord Henry Langlia, stern man with Lady Eleanor's eyes, loomed above the hidden panel. Poirot pressed it, revealing the safe, its dial gleaming like a challenge. The numbers. Hastings, he said, studying the ledger page. The 7th of March, 12. A simple code, perhaps, but for what? He tested the combination, turning the dial with precision. 3 clicks right, 7 left, 12 right. Nothing. He tried variations. 3 minus 12 minus 7. The 3rd of July, 12, but the safe remained locked. Mon Dieu, he muttered. It is not so simple. Hastings paced, his boots scuffing the rug. Maybe it's not a combination at all. It could be a date or a page number in another book. This place is full of them. Poirot's eyes lit up. A page number. Oui, okay? An excellent thought. Mon ami. He scanned the bookshelves, his fingers trailing over leather spines. A worn volume caught his eye. The Language of Flowers, its cover embossed with a rose. He opened it to page 37, line 12, and found a handwritten note in faded ink. L.B. 2 Bath, the 15th of October, 1928. Star, secured. His pulse quickened. Lucien Blake, the jeweler. He was involved, and this confirms it. Before they could explore further, a soft clatter came from the hall. Poirot motioned for silence, and they crept to the door, peering out. Clara Vane stood at a side table, a key in her hand, unlocking a small drawer. She froze as Poirot stepped forward, his cane tapping lightly. Mademoiselle Vane, you are fond of nocturnal searches, it seems. What do you seek now? Clara's face flushed, her auburn hair glinting under the chandelier. Mr. Poirot, I didn't mean to pry. I was looking for more of my mother's papers. She mentioned the letter from Lucien Blake. Something about the sapphire. Poirot's smile was gentle but probing. And you find this letter in a locked drawer? Show me. S'il vous plaît. Clara hesitated, then handed him a yellowed envelope addressed to Margaret Vane in a looping hand. Inside was a brief note. Margaret, the Star is safe with L.B. in Bath. Tell no one. H.L. Poirot's mind raced. H.L. Lord Henry Langley. This is significant, mademoiselle. Why keep it secret? Clara's eyes glistened. I didn't want Lady Eleanor to know. She blames my mother for the theft. Proves she was trusted, not negligent. Hastings snorted. Trusted, or part of the plot. That note's damning, Clara. Poirot shot him a look. Enough, Hastings. Mademoiselle, you will share all such finds with Poirot, We can return. I shall help you. But no more secrets. Clara nodded, her locket a rose-shaped pendant catching the light. As she left, Poirot turned to the safe, the notes mention of Bath sparking a plan. Lucien Blake, he is the key. We must go to Bath Hastings and trace this jeweler. But first, the safe. He tried the numbers again, combining them with the book's clue, but the safe remained stubborn. Frustrated, he stepped back, his eyes scanning the portrait. A faint scratch on the frame caught his attention, a tiny rose etched in the wood. He pressed it, and a click echoed, the safe's door easing open. Inside was a single item, a velvet pouch containing a brass key, engraved with a rose. Good Lord, Poirot! Hastings exclaimed. A key. Think it's for the sapphire. Poirot's smile was triumphant. Not the sapphire, mon ami, but a door to it. This key. It opened something in Bath, I am certain. Lucien Blake. He was no mere jeweler, he was a conspirator. They prepared to leave. A shadow moved in the hall. Charles Langley, his face pale, his eyes darting to the safe. What are you doing? He demanded, his voice sharp. That's private. Poirot held up the key, his tone calm. Monsieur Charles, we find what was hidden. You watch us closely. Nan, perhaps you know of Lucien Blake. Charles's jaw tightened, his hands clenching. Never heard of him. You're stirring up trouble, Poirot. Leave the past alone. He stormed off, leaving a whiff of cigarette smoke. Hastings shook his head. He's hiding something, Poirot. His key think is for a bank vault. Perhaps, Poirot said, pocketing the key. But first, we go to Bath. Lucien Blake's trail. It beckons. Back at the inn, over a dinner of roast lamb and claret, Poirot spread the clues before him. The ledger page, the letter, the key. Hastings, his plate heaped, leaned back. This is getting deep, Poirot. Clara's got secrets. Charles is a nervous wreck. And now we're off to Bath on a hunch. What if it's a dead end? Poirot sipped his claret, his eyes gleaming. A dead end. Nan. The cipher. The key. The note they point to Bath. Lucien Blake. He holds the next piece of this puzzle. Tomorrow we shall find him, or what remains of him. They retired. The inn's silence was broken by a faint rustle outside Poirot's window. He peered out, seeing only mist and moonlight, but his instincts hummed. The manor's secrets were unraveling, and the key in his pocket was a promise of truth. The star of Lahore, a shadow in Christie's words, was drawing him closer. And Poirot would not rest until its light was his. Chapter 6. The jeweler's trail, the train to Bath, rattled through the English countryside, its rhythm a counterpoint to the restless hum of Hercule Poirot's thoughts. It was a brisk October afternoon in 1930, and the carriage's velvet seats, warmed by slanting sunlight, held Poirot and Captain Hastings as they journeyed from Devon's misty moors to the elegant streets of Bath. Poirot, immaculate in a tailored gray suit, his mustache waxed to twin points of precision, sat by the window, his green eyes fixed on the passing fields, though his mind was elsewhere. In his leather portfolio rested the artifacts of their investigation, a journal page, allegedly penned by Agatha Christie, detailing the unsolved 1928 theft of the Star of Lahore sapphire from Langley Manor. The lavender-scented note warning too. Seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns. The pearl button dropped by a midnight intruder. A torn glove monogrammed CL. A ledger page implicating the dismissed valet Thomas Reed. And a brass key, engraved with a rose, found in a hidden safe behind Lord Henry Langley's portrait. The key, coupled with a cryptic note from the library L.B. to Bath. The 15th of October, 1928, star secured, pointed to Lucien Blake, a London jeweler linked to the sapphire's disappearance. Poirot's little gray cells buzzed, weaving these clues into a tapestry of intrigue that now led them to Bath Hastings. Opposite, leafed through a newspaper, his tweed jacket rumpled from the journey. "I say, Poirot," he said, folding the paper with a sigh. "This Lucien Blake business feels like a long shot. A jeweler who vanished 2 years ago. What if he's dead, or halfway to Timbuktu? And that Keene might just open a dusty old box with nothing but cobwebs." Poirot's smile was a razor's edge, his fingers tapping the portfolio. "Mon ami, you underestimate the precision of Poirot. The note, the key, the ledger, they converge on Bath, on Lucien Blake. He is no phantom. He is a thread in this mystery, and we shall pull it until the truth unravels. The Star of Lahore, it waits for us, hidden in the shadows of this elegant city." Their investigation at Langley Manor had painted a vivid tableau of suspicion. Lady Eleanor Langley's guarded reticence, her nephew Charles's nervous volatility, Kay and Clara Vane's secretive quest to clear her mother's name had deepened the puzzle. The garden parties, revelations, Charles's heated exchange with Clara, the heart-shaped indentation in the fountain, and the undergardener Tom's wariness had confirmed the rose's heart as a pivotal clue. The midnight discovery in the library, where Clara searched for her mother's papers and Charles's lurking presence had yielded the ledger and the key, had propelled Poirot to this new trail. The note linking Blake to Bath suggested he had played a role in hiding the sapphire, and the key, Poirot sensed, would unlock more than a box that would open the past. Bath greeted them with a golden glow, its Georgian architecture gleaming under a crisp autumn sky. The city's crescents and squares, built of honey-colored stone, bustled with tourists and locals. The air scented with fresh bread from bakeries and the faint mineral temps. Poirot, his Homburg hat tilted just so, led the way to Hatton Gardens, equivalent in Bath-and-Narrow Street, lined with jewelers and antique shops, where Lucien Blake had once plied his trade. The address from the ledger, 17 Crescent Lane, was now a dusty storefront labeled Finch's Antiques, its windows cluttered with tarnished silver and faded porcelain dot inside. The shop was a labyrinth of relics, clocks ticking out of sync, gilded mirrors reflecting dim light, and shelves groaning under the weight of forgotten treasures. Mr. Finch, a wiry man with a shock of white hair and spectacles perched on a hawkish nose, emerged from behind a counter, his hands dusted with polish. "Gentlemen, welcome," he said, his voice reedy but warm. "Looking for something particular? A cameo, perhaps, or a nice pocket watch?" Poirot bowed, his manner disarming. "Monsieur Finch, I am Hercule Poirot, and this is Captain Hastings. We seek information about a former tenant of this shop. Lucien Blake, a jeweler, was here in 1928. Finch's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Blake, my word, that's a name I haven't heard in years. He rented this place until late 28, then vanished like smoke. Fine jeweler, mind you, but a bit secretive. Always muttering about a blue star. Why do you ask?" Poirot produced the ledger page, pointing to the note, LB2 Bath. "The 15th of October, 1928. This, monsieur, suggests Blake was involved with the gem, the Star of Lahore, stolen from Langley Manor. You knew him? What can you tell us?" Finch adjusted his spectacles, his fingers trembling slightly. "The Star of Lahore. I remember Blake talking about it. Said it was the finest sapphire he'd ever seen, big as a quail's egg, with a fire that could hypnotize. He appraised it for Lord Henry Langley, but after that, he got nervous. Said he'd been approached by a client, called him L, who wanted the gem recut. Blake refused, said it was too risky. Then, poof, he was gone. Left the shop overnight. No forwarding address." Hastings leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "This L, any idea who it was? And where did Blake go?" Finch shrugged, his eyes darting to a back room. "No clue about L. Could have been any one gentry crook. Who knows? As for Blake, rumor was he fled to Cornwall, Some lighthouse he was fond of. Never saw him again. This shop's been mine since. Poirot's pulse quickened, his mind latching onto Cornwall and lighthouse. A lighthouse, you say? Most interesting. Did Blake leave anything behind? Papers, tools, perhaps a clue to this blue star? Finch hesitated, then motioned them to the back room, a cluttered space smelling of oil and dust. He pulled a wooden box from a shelf, its lid carved with a rose. Found this when I took over, he said, opening it to reveal a jeweler's tools, a loupe, and a folded sketch. Poirot unfolded it, revealing a detailed drawing of the star of Lahore, radiant sapphire, its facets annotated with measurements and a note, coordinates 50.342, 4.781, Travar light. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured, his eyes gleaming. Travar Lighthouse, Cornwall, the sapphire. It was taken there, I am certain. This sketch, it is a map to the truth. Hastings whistled, peering over Poirot's shoulder. Good Lord, a real lead. Think Blake hid the gem in some old lighthouse. But why? Poirot pocketed the sketch, his mind racing. High stings. Because Blake was no mere jeweler. He was a guardian, or perhaps a conspirator. The coordinates, they are precise. We must go to Cornwall, to this Travar light, and find what Blake left behind. Finch's face paled. Be careful, Mr. Poirot. Blake had shady associatesmen who'd come by at night, rough types. One wore a fedora, always smoking those Turkish cigarettes. I didn't like the look of him. Poirot nodded, filing away the detail. Merci, Monsieur Finch. You have been most helpful. This man in the fedora appears. You will contact me. We? He handed Finch a card, his name embossed in elegant script. As they left the shop, the bath sunlight felt deceptively warm, belying the chill of danger Poirot sensed. They booked passage on the next train to Cornwall, the coordinates burning in his mind. The journey to Penzance was long, the train winding through rolling hills and past wind-swept cliffs. The sea, a distant shimmer of silver. Hastings, restless, fidgeted with his newspaper. Cornwall's a wild place, Poirot. Lighthouses, smugglers, coves, like we're stepping into one of Christie's novels, for real. Poirot's smile was enigmatic, and perhaps we are mon ami. Madame Christie, she has set a stage, and we are her players. But Poirot, he does not merely act, he directs. Travar Lighthouse stood alone on a jagged cliff, its white tower weathered by salt and storm, the sea crashing below, in a symphony of foam and fury. The keeper, a grizzled man named Captain Tregaskis, met them at the base, his face etched with suspicion. You're the detective, eh? He growled, his Cornish accent thick. What's a city gent want with my lighthouse? Poirot bowed, undeterred. Monsieur Tregaskis, we seek traces of Lucien Blake, a jeweler who may have visited in 1928. He left a clue, coordinates to this very place. May we search? Tregaskis squinted, his pipe smoldering. Blake, I remember him. Nervous fellow, came one night in a storm, muttering about a star. Left something in the storeroom, said it was for safekeeping. Never came back. He led them up the spiral stairs, the wind howling through the tower's cracks. The storeroom was a damp, cluttered space, filled with ropes, lanterns, and rusted tools. Tregaskis pointed to a corner, where a tin box sat, its lid sealed with wax. Poirot knelt, his gloved hands breaking the seal with care. Inside was a glowing sapphire fragment, small but radiant, its blue depths catching the light in a note. In Blake's hand, the star is split. Trust not the air. Mon Dieu, Poirot breathed, holding the fragment to the light. The star of Lahore, it was divided, says one piece, hidden by Blake. But who is the heir? Hastings's eyes widened. Charles Langley, I'll bet. He's the heir. and he's been skulking about. Think he knows about this? Poirot tucked the fragment and note into his portfolio. Perhaps Hastings bought the note. It warns of betrayal. We must return to Devon and confront Monsieur Charles. As they descended, a shadow moved outside a man in a fedora, his cigarette glowing red in the dusk. He vanished as Dragaski shouted, but Poirot caught the scent of Turkish tobacco. Our friend from Bath, he murmured. He follows the trail, as we do. The train back to Chackford was a blur of cliffs and stars, Poirot's mind racing with the new clues. The sapphire fragment confirmed the gem's existence, but its division raised questions. Who held the other pieces? Was Charles the untrustworthy heir, or was another Langley involved? And who was the man in the fedora, trailing them like a ghost? At the Three Crowns Inn, Poirot spread the clues before him: the journal, the note, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, and now the sapphire fragment. Hastings, nursing a whiskey, shook his head. This is getting wild, Poirot. A split sapphire, a vanished jeweler, a shady character in a fedora. What's next? Poirot's eyes gleamed in the firelight. Mon ami, we return to Langley Manor, the air, the sapphire, the rose's heart, they are all connected. Charles Langley, he must answer for his shadows. In this fragment, it is a beacon leading us to the truth. As they retired, the inn silence was broken by a faint creak outside Poirot's window. He peered out, seeing only moonlight and mist, but his instincts hummed. The jeweler's trail had led them to a piece of the Star of Lahore, but the puzzle was far from complete. Tomorrow they would face Charles, and the manor's secrets would yield door fight back. Chapter 7. The lighthouse beacon the Cornish coast roared with untamed fury. Its cliffs jagged against a bruised October sky, the sea below churning in a ceaseless dance of foam and salt. Hercule Poirot stood at the base of Drevar Lighthouse, his tailored overcoat flapping in the wind, his Homburg hat gripped tightly to keep it from the gusts. It was late afternoon in 1930, and the air carried the sharp temps of seaweed and the distant cry of gulls. Beside him, Captain Hastings, his tweed jacket speckled with sea mist, squinted against the glare, his face a mix of awe and unease. In Poirot's leather portfolio, secured against the elements, lay the accumulating clues of their investigation into the Star of Lahore's 1928 theft from Langley Manor, a journal page. Allegedly, Agatha Christie's, claiming Poirot's failure to solve the case. A lavender-scented note urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns. A pearl button, a monogrammed glove. A ledger page implicating the valet Thomas Reed. Brass key etched with a rose. And a sketch from Lucien Blake's Bath shop pointing to this very lighthouse with coordinates and a note. The star is split. Trust not the air. The sapphire fragment found in the lighthouse's storeroom, glowing with an ethereal blue, confirmed the gem's division. But its warning about an untrustworthy heir, likely Charles Langley, deepened the mystery. Now, a storm brewed on the horizon, and Poirot's little gray cells were alight, sensing the lighthouse held more than one secret. "Blimey, Poirot," Hastings said, shielding his eyes from the wind. "This place is wilder than a Conan Doyle tale. That sapphire fragment proof the Star of Lahore's real, but split. And that note about the air. Charles Langley's got to be involved, don't you think?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes scanning the lighthouse's weathered tower. Hastings, the fragment, it is a beacon, guiding us to the truth. But the heir, he is not yet proven guilty. Charles, he watches, he lurks, but the puzzle, it is larger. This lighthouse, it hides more than one piece of the star. We must search again before the storm traps us. Their journey from Bath had been swift, driven by the sketch's coordinates and Mr. Finch's tale of Lucien Blake, the jeweler who vanished after refusing to recut the sapphire. The fragment found in a wax-sealed tin box, was a triumph, but the note's warning and the fleeting glimpse of a man in a fedora, reeking of Turkish tobacco, suggested danger trailed them. Langley Manor's Caste Lady, Eleanor's icy reserve, Clara Vane's secretive quest, Charles's volatile charm, and the gardener Tom's wariness formed a web of motives. And Poirot sensed the lighthouse was a knot in that web, tying Blake to the theft, and perhaps to the mysterious L. Mentioned in Bath. Captain Tregaski's, the lighthouse keeper, awaited them at the tower's base. His grizzled face etched with suspicion, his pipe smoldering despite the wind. "Back so soon, Mr. Poirot," he growled, his Cornish accent thick as the fog rolling in. "Found what you came for, didn't you?" "That box wasn't meant to be opened." Poirot bowed, his manner unruffled. "Monsieur Tregaski's, you have been most helpful, but the box, it is only the beginning. The Star of Lahore, it was divided. In this lighthouse, it holds more secrets. May we search further?" Tregaski squinted, his pipe clenched between his teeth. "Search all you like, but the storm's coming. Be quick, or you'll be stuck here till it passes." He led them up the spiral stairs, the tower's iron steps clanging under their feet, the wind howling through cracks in the stone. The storeroom, damp and cluttered, smelled of rust and salt, its shelves piled with ropes, lanterns, and charts. Poirot's eyes swept the space, seeking anything the first search had missed. Hastings, poking through a crate of oil cans, muttered, "This place is a death trap, Poirot. If Blake hid another fragment here, it's probably rusted to bits. And that note, trust not the heir. Charles Langley's the only heir, isn't he?" Poirot knelt by a stack of crates, his gloved hands probing for hidden compartments. "The heir, oui, but the note, it is ambiguous. Charles, he is Lady Eleanor's nephew, not her son. Perhaps another heir exists, or the note misleads. We must." He paused, his fingers brushing a loose floorboard. With a gentle tug, it lifted, revealing a small cavity. Inside was a leather pouch, its surface worn but intact, containing a second sapphire, fragments smaller than the first, but equally radiant, its facets catching the dim light like a captured star. Tucked beside it was a cigarette case, silver, monogrammed C.L. Mondier. Poirot exclaimed, holding the fragment aloft. "Another piece of the star. In this case Charles Langley. He was here, or someone wishes us to think so." Hastings's jaw dropped. "Good Lord, Poirot. Charles, sneaking about a lighthouse. He's got to be the thief. But why leave a cigarette case?" Poirot's eyes gleamed, his mind racing, questions with many answers. Perhaps he hid the fragment. Or perhaps he seeks it, like us. The case, it is too convenient left to be found. Perhaps to mislead. We must take it to him and observe his reaction. Koskies, leaning in the doorway, grunted. "That's a Langley piece, all right. Seen the boy Charles, is it? Round Chagford. Always smoking. Always twitchy. But he ain't been here. Not since I've been keeper." Poirot pocketed the fragment in case, his expression unreadable. "Mercy, Monsieur Tregaski's. You have given us much to consider. We shall return to Chagford, but first, tell me, did Lucien Blake speak of anyone else? A man in a fedora, perhaps?" Tregaskis's eyes narrowed, his pipe puffing furiously. There was a fellow, came with Blake once, wore a hat like that, smoked those fancy cigarettes. Didn't give a name, but he had a scar on his cheek, right side. Looked like trouble." Poirot nodded, the image of the fedora-wearing man from Bath sharpening in his mind. "Most helpful, monsieur. If this man returns, you will send word to Poirot. Oui." He handed Tregaski a card, his name embossed in elegant script. As they descended, the storm broke, rain lashing the tower, the wind a howling beast. Hastings clutched his hat, his voice barely audible. "We're stuck, Poirot. No train. Run in this mess. Poirot's smile was resolute. Then we stay, mon ami, and use the time. The lighthouse, it is a sanctuary and a trap. Let us explore its secrets further. Dragowski's offered them a cramped guest room, its walls damp and its cat creaking. But Poirot declined sleep, instead poring over the new clues by lantern light. The second fragment glowed in his hand, its edges matching the first, confirming. The star of Lahore's division, polished but scratched, bore Charles's initials, yet Dragowski's denial of his presence raised questions. Is Charles here, or was the case planted to implicate him? And the man in the fedora, his shadow loomed larger, a predator circling their trail. Hastings, slumped on the cot, muttered, "This is madness, Poirot. 2 bits of sapphire, a dodgy cigarette case, and a storm keeping us here. What if that fedora chops out there, waiting?" Poirot's fingers traced the case's monogram. If he waits, Hastings, he underestimates Poirot. The fragments, they are proof the sapphire exists, but the air's betrayal it points to Charles. Yet I sense a deeper game. Tomorrow we return to Langley Manor and confront him. The storm raged through the night, the lighthouse trembling under its assault. Poirot sat by the window, the fragments glowing in the lantern's flicker, his mind a world of connections. Dawn broke gray and sodden, the sea calmer, but the cliffs slick with rain. Dragowski's grumbling drove them to Penzance Station in his battered truck, the road treacherous but passable. The train to Chackford was a slow crawl, the carriage cold and damp, but Poirot's focus never wavered. The fragments, the case, the note, they were pieces of a puzzle, and Charles Langley was its center at the 3 Crowns Inn. Poirot spread the clues on his desk, the journal, the note, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, and now 2 sapphire fragments and a cigarette case. Hastings, nursing a brandy, shook his head. "We're getting somewhere, Poirot, but it's a tangle. Charles is up to his neck in this, I'd wager. And that fedora fellow think he's working with him?" Poirot sipped his tisane, his eyes gleaming in the firelight. "A possibility, Hastings, but the truth, it is not so simple. Fragments, they confirmed the sapphire's division, but the heir's betrayal may not be Charles alone. The man in the fedora, he follows the same trail, perhaps for the same prize. Tomorrow we confront Charles in the lighthouse's beacon. It will light our path." As they retired, a faint rustle came from outside Poirot's window, a branch, or something more. He peered out, seeing only rain and shadows, but his instincts hummed. The lighthouse had yielded a piece of the Star of Lahore, but the storm had trapped more than their bodies. It had trapped the truth, and Poirot would free it, no matter the cost. Chapter 8. The Heir's Deception. The mist hung heavy over Chackford, cloaking the Devon hills in a shroud of silver as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings drove their Daimler through the winding lanes toward Langley Manor. It was a damp October morning in 1930, the air sharp with the scent of wet earth and fading roses. Poirot, impeccable in a tailored charcoal overcoat, his Homburg hat tilted just so, sat erect, his green eyes gleaming with purpose. In his leather portfolio, the clues of their investigation into the 1928 death of the Star of Lahore sapphire weighed heavily. A journal page, legibly penned by Agatha Christie, claiming Poirot's failure. A lavender-scented note, urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns. A pearl button, a monogrammed glove. A ledger page implicating the valet Thomas Reed. A brass key etched with a rose. A sketch pointing to Lucien Blake's bath shop, and 2 sapphire fragments, found in Cornwall's Trevar Lighthouse, alongside a cigarette case marked C.L., Charles Langley's initials. The lighthouse's note, "The star is split, trust not the air," had cast a shadow over Charles, Lady Eleanor's volatile nephew. whose nervous demeanor and lurking presence suggested he was more than a bystander. The man in the fedora, glimpsed in Bath in Cornwall, added a menacing edge, his Turkish cigarettes a lingering trace. Poirot's little gray cells buzzed, sensing the manor was the crucible where these threads would converge. Hastings, gripping the steering wheel, his tweed jacket damp from the mist, glanced at Poirot. "I say, Poirot, that cigarette case pins Charles right to the lighthouse. He's the heir, and that note practically screams he's up to no good. Why else would he be sneaking about, dropping clues like breadcrumbs?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his smile enigmatic. "Mon ami, you see the surface, but the depths, they are murkier. It's a cigarette case. It is too perfect, too convenient. Charles, he is desperate. But is he the thief or a pawn? The sapphire, split into pieces, suggests a plan beyond one man's greed. Today, we confront him. In the manner, it will yield its truths." Their journey from Cornwall had been fraught, the storm trapping them at Trevar Lighthouse until dawn. But the second sapphire fragment in the cigarette case had sharpened Poirot's resolve. Langley Manors cast Lady Eleanor's icy reserve, Clara Vane's secretive quest to clear her mother, and Charles's erratic behavior formed a web of motives, and the lighthouse's warning pointed to Charles as the untrustworthy heir. Yet Poirot sensed a deeper game, one orchestrated by an unseen hand, perhaps the man in the fedora or the mysterious L. from Lucien Blake's past. The brass key, still untested, was a promise of revelation, and Poirot intended to unlock its secrets today. The manor loomed through the fog, its gray turrets piercing the sky like silent sentinels. The gravel drive crunched under the dameless tires, and Poirot noted a fresh detail, a black motorbike parked near a side entrance, its chrome gleaming despite the damp. "Curious," he murmured, filing it away. Grayson, the gaunt butler, met them at the door, his pale eyes flickering with unease. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice dry as dust. "Lady Eleanor is in the morning room, but Mr. Charles is indisposed. He's not taken well to your inquiries." Tarot's smile was disarming. "Indisposed, Monsieur Grayson. A pity. We must speak with him, for we have found something of his cigarette case, perhaps lost in Cornwall. The library safe. We must revisit it." "Lead on, s'il vous plaît." Grayson hesitated, then nodded, guiding them through the cavernous hall, where Langley portraits seemed to watch with disapproval. The morning room was a haven of faded elegance, its tall windows letting in pale light, the air scented with tea and lavender. Lady Eleanor sat at a mahogany table, a porcelain teapot before her, her silver hair pinned tightly, her black silk dress stark against the room's warmth. She looked up, her gray eyes sharp but weary. "Monsieur Poirot, you return like a hound on a scent," she said, pouring tea with a steady hand. "What have you found now to disturb my peace?" Poirot bowed, producing the cigarette case, its silver glinting in the light. "This, madame, was found at Trevar Lighthouse in Cornwall with a fragment of the Star of Lahore. It bears the initials CL, your nephew, Charles. He is the heir Nea. In this note, he unfolded the lighthouse note, warns, to trust not the ear. We must speak with him." Lady Eleanor's face tightened, her teacup pausing mid-air. "Charles, Keene, Cornwall. Impossible. He's been here, tending to family matters. That case could belong to anyone. As for the sapphire, I told you, it's a ghost from our past." Hastings, seated on a velvet chair, leaned forward. "A ghost that's turning up in pieces, Lady Eleanor. We've got 2 fragments now, and your nephew's name keeps popping up. Care to explain that?" Coat as snapped to him, cold as steel. "Charles is troubled, Captain, but no thief. He was a boy when the sapphire vanished. You're chasing shadows." Poirot noted the tremor in her voice, the way her eyes avoided the cigarette case. Shadows, madame, cast by truth. We shall speak with Monsieur Charles, and we shall see. May we also revisit the library? It's a safe. It may hold more. She nodded reluctantly. Crayson will take you, but tread lightly, monsieur. Charles is fragile. In the library, the air was thick with the scent of old leather and wax. The empty glass case, a silent reminder of the lost sapphire. Poirot approached the hidden safe behind Lord Henry's portrait, the brass key in his hand. Before he could test it, a shout echoed from the hall. Charles, his voice slurred with drink, arguing with someone. Poirot motioned for Hastings to stay quiet, and they crept to the door, peering out. Charles stood by a staircase, his blonde hair disheveled, his suit rumpled, facing Clara Vane, whose auburn hair gleamed under her cloche hat. You're digging too deep, Clara, Charles snapped, his cigarette trembling in his hand. Let the past stay buried, or you'll ruin us all. Clara's voice was icy. Ruin us, Charles, or you? I know what you're hiding. My mother wasn't a thief. You were involved, weren't you? Charles lunged forward, but Poirot stepped into the hall, his cane tapping sharply. Monsieur Charles, Mademoiselle Vane, a moment, s'il vous plaît. We have matters to discuss. He held up the cigarette case, watching Charles's face pale. This was found in Cornwall, with a piece of the Star of Lahore. Care to explain? Charles's eyes darted to the case, his hands shaking. Mine, yes, but I lost it months ago. I've never been to Cornwall. Someone's framing me, Poirot. Hastings snorted. Convenient, losing it at a lighthouse with a sapphire fragment. Come off it, Charles. What's your game? Poirot's gaze was piercing. Sire, the note with this case warns of an untrustworthy heir. You are Lady Eleanor's heir, Nan. In your presence, it follows us gloves, cigarettes. Now this. Speak, or Poirot shall find the truth without you. Charles sank onto a step, his face crumpling. All right, damn it. I've been trailing you. Yes, I owe money, a lot of it, to some nasty types in Exeter. They heard about your poking around, thought the sapphire might clear my debts. I followed you to Bath, but I swear, I never went to Cornwall. Someone must have taken my case. Poirot's smile was unreadable. Debts, monsieur. And who are these nasty types? A man in a fedora, perhaps, with a scar and Turkish cigarettes. Charles's eyes widened, his voice a whisper. Did you? Yes. Victor Crane. He's a loan shark. Dangerous. He's been hounding me. Said he'd get the sapphire himself if I didn't. Clara, silent until now, stepped forward, her locket glinting. Crane. My mother mentioned him, said he was sniffing around the manor in 28 after the theft. Charles, if you're working with him, I'm not. Charles snapped, his voice breaking. I'm trying to save the manor. Clara, Aunt Eleanor's. Broke, and I thought, if I found the sapphire, I could pay Crane off. Poirot's mind raced, the pieces shifting. And this sapphire, monsieur, you believe it is split, as we have found? Tell me, what do you know of Lucien Blake? Charles hesitated, then sighed. Uncle Henry, Lord Henry, told me before he died that he split the sapphire to protect it. Said Blake took one piece to Bath, another to a priest in York. The third he kept here, but I don't know where. I've been searching, but I'm no thief, Poirot. Hastings raised an eyebrow. A priest in York? That's a new one. Think he's telling the truth, Poirot? Poirot's eyes narrowed. The truth, Hastings, is a chameleon. Monsieur Charles, you will assist us. We return to the library. The key, it may unlock more than a safe. In the library, Poirot tested the brass key in the safe's lock, but it didn't fit. Undeterred, he scanned the room, his eyes landing on a locked cabinet near the fireplace, its door carved with a rose. The key clicked smoothly, revealing a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon. One, dated 1928, was from Lord Henry to Clara's mother. Margaret, the star's third piece is with the roses. Trust the priest. Another mentioned Thomas Reed, the valet, with an address in London. Monsieur Poirot murmured. The third piece, here at the manor, and Reed, he knows more. Mademoiselle Vane, your mother was trusted. But by whom? Clara's face paled, her locket clutched tightly. My mother suspected Reed. She said he was too close to Lord Henry, knew too much. If he's in London, we need to find him. Poirot nodded, pocketing the letters. And we shall, mademoiselle. But first, Monsieur Charles, you will stay where? Poirot can see you. Your debts, they make you vulnerable. And this Crane, he is a shadow we must face. As they left the library, a motorbike roared outside, its engine fading into the mist. Poirot's pulse quickened a black motorbike from earlier. Hastings, we must hurry. To London to find Thomas Reed, the sapphire's third piece. It waits in the air's deception. It unravels. Back at the Three Crowns Inn, over a dinner of pheasant and claret, Poirot spread the clues before him. The journal, the note, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the fragments, the cigarette case, and now the letters. Hastings. His plate heaped, shook his head. Charles is a mess, Poirot, but is he the villain? And this Crane fellow think he's the fedora man, chasing the sapphire. Poirot sipped his claret, his eyes gleaming. Crane, he is a predator, but the sapphire, it draws many eyes. Reed, he holds the next key, and York, it calls. The air's deception, it is not just Charles, it is a legacy, mon ami, and Poirot shall uncover it. As they retired, a faint scent of Turkish tobacco lingered outside Poirot's window. He peered out, seeing only mist, but his instincts hummed. The lighthouse's beacon had lit a path, but the manor shadows were closing in, and the star of Lahore's final piece was within reach. Chapter 9. The valet's shadow. The London fog curled through the streets like a living thing, wrapping the city in a damp, gray embrace as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings stepped from their taxi onto the cobbled lane of Whitechapel. It was a chill October evening in 1930. The air heavy with the scent of coal smoke and the distant clatter of trams. Poirot, impeccable in a tailored overcoat, his Homburg hat shielding his eyes from the drizzle, clutched his leather portfolio. Its contents, a growing constellation of clues in the mystery of the Star of Lahore's 1928 theft from Langley Manor. A journal page, allegedly Agatha Christie's, claiming Poirot's failure. A lavender-scented note urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns. A pearl button, a monogrammed glove. A ledger page implicating Thomas Reed, a rose-etched brass key. A sketch pointing to Lucien Blake's bath shop, a 2. Sapphire fragments from Trevar Lighthouse, with a cigarette case marked CL, in letters from Lord Henry Langley, hinting at a third fragment hidden with the roses and a priest in York. Charles Langley's confession, his debts, to a loan shark named Victor Crane. Possibly the man in the fedora, trailing them, had sharpened the focus on Reed, the dismissed valet, whose London address, found in the manor's library, promised answers. Poirot's little gray cells thrummed, sensing the valet was a pivot in this intricate puzzle. His shadow stretching from Devon to Cornwall, and now to London's gritty underbelly. Hastings, his tweed jacket damp, adjusted his scarf against the chill. Good Lord, Poirot, Whitechapel's a far cry from Langley Manor's roses. This Reed chap think he's got the third sapphire piece. And that motorbike we saw at the manor beds, it's Crane sniffing around like a bloodhound. Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes scanning the narrow street where gas lamps cast feeble pools of light. Mon ami, you see the hunter, but to prey, it is more elusive. Reed, he was trusted by Lord Henry, yet dismissed after the theft. His role, it is not simple guilt. The motorbike, it suggests Crane's pursuit, but the sapphires, third piece, it calls us to read. We shall find him, and the truth, it will emerge from the fog. Their investigation had escalated since Cornwall, where the lighthouse yielded a second sapphire fragment and a note warning to trust not the air. Charles's admission of trailing them to Bath, driven by debts to Crane, had painted him as desperate, but not necessarily the thief. Clara Vane's revelation that her mother, Margaret, suspected Reed's involvement had led them to the letters, one linking Reed to London and another pointing to a York priest. The brass key, still untested, and the journal's roses. Hard clue loomed large, but Reed's address 12 Grimshaw Lane was their immediate target. Poirot sensed the valet held a piece of the Star of Lahore, or at least the knowledge to find it, and the man in the fedora, with his Turkish cigarettes and scarred cheek, was a shadow they could not ignore. Grimshaw Lane was a warren of soot-stained tenements, their windows dark, their doors scarred by time. Number 12 was a narrow boarding house, its paint peeling, sign creaking in the wind. Mrs. Doyle's lodgings. Poirot knocked, his cane tapping sharply. The door creaked open to reveal a stout landlady, her apron stained, her eyes suspicious. "What's this, then?" she demanded, wiping floury hands. "No rooms free, gents." Poirot bowed, his smile disarming. "Madame Doyle, I am Hercule Poirot, and this is Captain Hastings. We seek a tenant, Thomas Reed, who may reside here. A matter of urgency concerning a family heirloom." Mrs. Doyle's eyes narrowed, but a shilling from Poirot softened her. "Scowl, Reed. Old man keeps to himself. Top floor, room 7. But he's a nervous sort. Don't take kindly to strangers. Up you go. But don't blame me if he bolts." The stairs groaned under their weight, the air thick with the smell of cabbage and damp plaster. At room 7, Poirot knocked, his senses alert. A shuffle sounded within, then a raspy voice. "Who's there?" "I don't want no visitors, Mr. Reed. I am Hercule Poirot," he called, his voice calm but firm. "I come from Langley Manor, seeking the truth of the Star of Lahore. Open the door, s'il vous plaît, or we shall involve the police." The door cracked open, revealing a frail man, perhaps 60, with thinning gray hair and eyes sunken with fear. Thomas Reed's hands trembled as he clutched a worn cardigan. Hated his room, a clutter of books, newspapers, and a single flickering lamp. "Poirot," he whispered, "the detective. What do you want with me? I left the Langleys years ago." Poirot stepped inside, his gaze sweeping the room. "Monsieur Reed, we have found 2 pieces of the Star of Lahore and letters from Lord Henry suggesting you knew of its division. This note," he produced the lighthouse note, "warns of an untrustworthy air. Tell us what you know, or the past. It will haunt you still." Reed sank into a chair, his face ashen. "Sapphire. It's cursed, Mr. Poirot. Lord Henry. He was desperate to protect it. After the theft, he split it 3 pieces to keep it from thieves. Helped him. Took one to Lucien Blake in Bath. Another went to a priest in York, Father Ellis. The third, he hid at the manor in the roses. He said, I was dismissed to keep it quiet. Margaret Vane, Clara's mother. She knew too much, asked too many questions." Hastings, leaning against the doorframe, frowned. "So you're saying you're innocent? Why run to London then? And what's this about a priest?" Reed's eyes darted to a corner where a small trunk sat, its lock gleaming. "I didn't. Whodunit was sent. Lord Henry gave me money to disappear, said it was safer. But I kept something." He shuffled to the trunk, his hand shaking as he unlocked it. Inside was a glowing locket, rose-shaped, its silver tarnished but intricate. This was his. He said it held a clue to the third piece. Poirot took the locket, his pulse quickening as he opened it. Inside was a tiny sketch of a rose garden, with a heart-shaped stone marked in red. Mon Dieu, he murmured. The fountain at Langley Manor, the rose's heart. The third piece. It is there. Before Reed could respond, a sharp knock echoed, followed by a low voice. Reed, open up. We need to talk. Reed froze, his face pale, and Poirot gestured for silence, slipping the locket into his pocket. Hastings cracked the door, peering out, and caught a glimpse of a man in a fedora, a scar glinting on his cheek, the air sharp with Turkish tobacco. Crane, Hastings whispered, closing the door softly. He's here, Poirot. Poirot's eyes gleamed. See, Reed, you will come with us. This man, he is dangerous, and you are not safe. To Chagford, then York. The sapphire, it draws us all. Reed nodded, his fear palpable, and they slipped out a back stair, the fog cloaking their escape. The taxi to Paddington Station was a tense ride, Poirot's mind racing. Reed's story confirmed the Sapphire's division, but Crane's pursuit suggested the stakes were higher than debts. The locket's sketch pointed back to the manor's fountain, but York's priest held the next clue. As the train to Chagford rattled through the night, Poirot spread the clues before him. The journal, the note, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the fragments, the cigarette case, the letters. And now the locket. Hastings, nursing a flask, shook his head. This is a proper mess, Poirot. Reed's scared stiff, Crane's on our tail, and we're hopping from London to York on a hunch. Think the third piece is really at the manor? Poirot's smile was resolute. The fountain, Hastings, it is the rose's heart, but York, it holds answers about the second piece. Reed, he is a shadow of the truth, and Poirot shall bring him into the light. As they neared Chagford, the fog thickened, and a faint scent of tobacco lingered in the carriage. Poirot's instincts hummed. Crane was close, but the Star of Lahore was closer, its fragments a beacon in the dark. Chapter 10. The Priest's Sanctuary. The train to York sliced through the Yorkshire countryside, its wheels clattering a steady rhythm against the October dusk. As Hercule Poirot sat in a first-class carriage, his tailored overcoat folded neatly. Beside him, his Homburg hat resting on the seat. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint scent of coal smoke and leather upholstery, and the fading light painted the moors in hues of amber and shadow. It was October 1930, and Poirot's green eyes, sharp beneath his waxed mustache, were fixed on the leather portfolio before him, its contents a constellation of clues in the unraveling mystery of the Star of Lahore's 1928 theft from Langley Manor, a journal page, purportedly Agatha Christie's, claiming Poirot's failure, a lavender-scented note urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns, a pearl button, a monogrammed glove, a ledger page implicating Thomas Reed, a rose-edged brass key, a sketch from Lucien Blake's bath shop, 2 sapphire fragments from Trevar Lighthouse with a cigarette case marked CL, letters from Lord Henry Langley, and a rose-shaped locket from Thomas Reed containing a sketch of the manor's fountain. Reed's confession in London that Lord Henry split the sapphire, sending one piece to a York priest. Father Ellis had propelled them north, while the shadow of Victor Crane, the scarred loan shark trailing them with Turkish cigarettes, loomed ever closer. Poirot's little gray cells thrummed. Sensen the priest held the key to the second sapphire fragment, while the third waited back at the manor's rose garden. Captain Hastings, opposite, slumped against the window, his tweed jacket creased from the long journey from London. Dash it, Poirot, he said, rubbing his eyes. We've been chasing this sapphire from Devon to Cornwall to London. And now, York. Reed's story about a priest sounds fishy to me, and that Crane fellow think he's still on our tail. Poirot's smile was a flicker of steel, his fingers tapping the portfolio. Mon ami, the chase, It is the essence of truth. Read, he was trusted by Lord Henry, yet dismissed to hide his knowledge. The priest, Father Ellis, he guards the second fragment or did, until it was stolen, as Reed hinted. Crane, he follows, but Poirot, he leads. In York, we shall find answers. In the Star of Lahore, it shines closer. Their escape from London had been tense, Reed's fear palpable as they slipped past Crane's shadow at Grimshaw Lane. The valet's locket, with its sketch of the Manor's fountain, had confirmed the Rose's heart as the third fragment's hiding place. But his mention of Father Ellis in York opened a new path. Charles Langley's confession, his debts to Crane, driving him to trail Poirot, had painted him as desperate. Not necessarily guilty, while Clara Vane's quest to clear her mother's name added layers to the Manor's secrets. The cigarette case, monogrammed CL, suggested Charles's presence at the lighthouse. Yet Reed's denial of seeing him there hinted at a setup. The brass key, still untested, and the journal's cryptic clue loomed large. But York's Minster, where Father Ellis served, was their immediate goal. York greeted them with a chill wind, its ancient walls glowing under gas lamps, the minsters, spires piercing the twilight sky. The city's cobbled streets, lined with timber-bird shops and bustling pubs, hummed with life, but Poirot's focus was singular. They took a taxi to the Minster, its Gothic arches, a towering testament to faith and history. Inside, the air was cool, scented with wax and old stone. The stained glass windows casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the nave. A stooped man with a lantern directed them to Father Ellis's study, tucked behind the choir stalls. Father Ellis was a frail figure, his white hair thin, his eyes clouded but sharp, seated at a desk piled with prayer books and candles. He rose, his cassock rustling, as Poirot bowed. Father Ellis, I am Hercule Poirot, and this is Captain Hastings. We come from Langley Manor, seeking the Star of Lahore, a sapphire entrusted to you by Lord Henry Langley in 1928. Ellis's face paled, his hands trembling as he gripped a rosary. The Star of Lahore, a burden, I thought, buried, Lord Henry. He brought me a fragment, said it was to protect it from greed. I kept it in a reliquary, hidden in the crypt. But last month, it was stolen, taken in the night. No trace. Hastings frowned, leaning forward. Stolen. Just like that. Okay. Any suspects? Father? Anyone sniffing around before it happened? Lys's eyes darted to the door, his voice low. A young woman came, asking about the sapphire. Auburn hair, gray dress, sharp eyes. Said she was researching the Langleys. I didn't trust her, but I told her nothing. Then the reliquary was empty, and I failed, Lord Henry. Prose. Pulse quickened, the description matching Clara Vane. This woman, Father, did she give a name? In the reliquary, was it kept? No name, Ellis said, his voice trembling. The crypt behind the altar of St. Cuthbert. The lock was forced. No other clues. I've prayed for forgiveness, Mr. Poirot. The sapphire, it was cursed. Poirot's smile was gentle but probing. Cursed, Nan, but coveted. We see. This crypt, Father. The thief, they leave traces, even in sacred places. Ellis led them through the minster's shadowy corridors, down a spiral stair to the crypt, a vault of ancient stone where the air was thick with dust and sanctity. Reliquary, a small silver box, sat empty on a stone shelf, its lock mangled. Poirot knelt, his magnifying glass tracing the scratches, his mind racing. A crude theft, he murmured, but deliberate. The thief, they knew what they sought. Hastings, peering over his shoulder, spotted a glint in the dust, a hairpin, delicate, with a tiny rose engraving. Good Lord, Poirot. Clarice. Here, pin, I'd wager. She's been here, hasn't she? Poirot pocketed the hairpin, his eyes gleaming. Perhaps Hastings, Mademoiselle Vane. She seeks her mother's honor, but her steps, they are shadowed. We must return to the manor and confront her. As they emerged from the crypt, Alice handed Poirot a prayer book, its cover worn, its pages yellowed. "Lord Henry gave me this," he said. "He said it held a clue, but I never understood it." Poirot opened it, finding a coded inscription. On the flyleaf, "Star's heart lies in the rose's shadow." The words echoed the journal, tying the priest to the manor's fountain. Back at their inn, the King's Arms, a cozy establishment with low beams and a roaring fire, Poirot spread the clues on a table. The journal, the note, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the fragments, the cigarette case, the letters, the locket. And now the hairpin and prayer book. Hastings, nursing a pint, shook his head. "Clara's been to York, Poirot, and she's got the second fragment, I'll bet." "No, but why steal it?" "And that coats the same old rose's heart business." Poirot sipped a tisane, his eyes gleaming in the firelight. "Mademoiselle Vane, she is no simple thief, Hastings. Her mother's disgrace, it drives her, but to what end? The prayer book, it confirms the fountain as the third piece's hiding place. We return to Chagford to test the key and confront Clara." As they retired, a faint creak came from the inn's corridor. Poirot peered out, catching a whiff of Turkish tobacco. A shadow had followed them to York. The priest's sanctuary had revealed a theft. But the star of Lahore's final peace waited in Devon, and Poirot would face its shadows with unyielding resolve. Chapter 11. The betrayal unmasked. The mist rolled low over the Devon hills, cloaking Langley Manor in a veil of silver as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings navigated the winding lanes in their hired Daimler. It was a crisp October morning in 1930, the air sharp with the scent of damp earth and fading roses. Poirot, impeccable in a tailored navy overcoat, his Homburg hat tilted precisely, sat erect, his green eyes gleaming with the intensity of a hunter nearing his quarry, his leather portfolio clutched tightly, brimmed with the clues amassed in their quest to unravel the 1928 theft of the Star of Lahore sapphire, a journal page, purportedly Agatha Christie's, claiming Poirot's failure, a lavender-scented note urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns, pearl button, a monogrammed glove, ledger page implicating Thomas Reed, a rose-etched brass key, a sketch from Lucien Blake's bath shop, to sapphire fragments from Trevor Lighthouse with a cigarette case marked CL, letters from Lord Henry Langley, a rose-shaped locket from Reed, and a prayer book from Father Ellis in York. Its coded inscription, "Star's heart lies in the rose's shadow," echoing the manor's fountain. The York visit had revealed Clara Vane's theft of the second sapphire fragment, her hairpin a damning clue, while Reed's confession and Charles Langley's admission of trailing them, driven by debts to the loan shark Victor Crane, had tightened the web of suspicion. Now, back at the manor, Poirot planned a dramatic confrontation to unmask Clara's betrayal and locate the final sapphire piece. Sensing the rose's heart was within reach, Captain Hastings, gripping the steering wheel, his tweed jacket damp from the mist, glanced at Poirot. "Dash it, Poirot. Clara's been playing us for fools, hasn't she? Stealing that fragment from York, her mother's honor, my foot. And Charles, skulking about with Crane on his heels. Think we'll find the third piece in that fountain." Today, Poirot's mustache twitched, his smile a flicker of steel. "Mon ami, the fountain. It is the heart of this mystery, as the journal and prayer book confirm. Clara, she seeks redemption, but her theft, it betrays ambition. Charles, he is desperate, but not alone. Today, we stage a tableau, Hastings, to draw out the truth. The Star of Lahore, it waits, and Poirot, he shall claim it." Their journey from York had been a tense blur the priest's revelation, and Clara's hairpin sharpening Poirot's focus. The manners, Castellati, Eleanor's icy reserve, Charles's volatile desperation, Clara's secretive quest, and the looming shadow of Crane. The scarred man in the fedora formed a constellation of motives. The brass key, still untested, and the locket sketch of the fountain's heart-shaped stone pointed to the manor's rose garden as the final hiding place. Reed's story that Lord Henry split the sapphire to protect it, entrusting pieces to Blake, Father Ellis, and the manor had brought them full circle. But Crane's pursuit and Clara's betrayal added urgency. Poirot planned to confront Clara and Charles with the prayer book's code, hoping to force their hands while the key might unlock the fountain's secret. Langley Manor loomed through the fog, its gray turrets stark against the rolling hills, its ivy-clad walls whispering of decay and secrets. The gravel drive crunched under the Daimler's tires. And Poirot noted a fresh detail, a black motorbike, its chrome glinting, parked near the stables. A match for the one seen before. Crane, perhaps, he murmured, his pulse quickening. Grayson, the gaunt butler, met them at the door, his pale eyes flickering with unease. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice dry as old parchment. "Lady Eleanor is in the drawing room with Mr. Charles and Miss Vane. There, unsettled by your return." Poirot bowed, his manner disarming. "Unsettled, monsieur." Grayson. "Good. The truth. It disturbs before it liberates. Lead us to them. Si vous plaît." The drawing room was a study in faded grandeur, its velvet drapes heavy with dust, the chandelier's crystals dulled by time. Lady Eleanor stood by a tall window, her black silk dress stark, her silver hair pinned tightly, her gray eyes cold but wary. Charles paced near the fireplace, his blond hair disheveled, a cigarette burning in his trembling hand. Clara Vane sat on a chaise, her auburn hair gleaming under her cloche hat, her gray dress simple, but her posture tense, her rose-shaped locket catching the light. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. The room is stage 4 Poirot's gambit. "Madame, Monsieur Charles, Mademoiselle Vane," Poirot began, his voice smooth but commanding. "We return from York with revelations. The Star of Lahore. It is split, as you know, in 2 fragments we have found. But the second, it was stolen from a priest, Father Ellis." He produced the prayer book, opening it to the coded inscription. It speaks of the rose's heart, as does Madame Christie's journal. "Mademoiselle Vane, you visited Father Ellis, did you not?" Hinked. In this, he held up the hairpin. Its rose, engraving glinting, was found in his crypt. Clara's face paled, her hand clutching her locket. "Mr. Poirot, I can explain. I went to York, yes, to find the truth about my mother. Father Ellis wouldn't talk, so I took the fragment. It was my mother's duty was blamed, unjustly." Charles spun, his cigarette dropping ash. "Stole it. Clara, you're mad. That sapphire's our only chance to save the manor, and you're playing thief?" Lady Eleanor's voice cut through, sharp as glass. "Nuff, both of you, Mr. Poirot. Clara's actions are reckless, but my family's ruin is not her fault. The sapphire's curse has haunted us too long." Poirot's eyes gleamed, his cane tapping lightly. "A curse, Madame Nan. It is greed and betrayal. Mademoiselle Vane, you have the second fragment. Proto shall summon Inspector Japp." Clara's shoulders sagged, her eyes glistening as she opened her locket, revealing a glowing sapphire fragment, its blue depths radiant. "Here," she whispered, handing it to Poirot. "I wanted to clear my mother's name, to prove she wasn't involved. I'm sorry." Hastings, standing by the door, whistled. "Good Lord, Clara, you've got nerve. But what about the third piece? If it's in the fountain, let's get it and be done with this." Poirot pocketed the fragment, his gaze shifting to Lady Eleanor. "Madame, You know of the fountain's heart. Lord Henry's letters speak of a third piece, hidden with the roses. Tell us where, or the truth, it will slip away. Lady Elena's face softened, her voice low. My brother. He was obsessed with protecting the sapphire. After the theft, he hid the final piece in a locket, rose-shaped like Clara's, in the Manor's chapel. I didn't want it found, Mr. Poirot. It's brought nothing but pain. Poirot nodded, his plan crystallizing. Then to the chapel we go, Monsieur Charles. Mademoiselle Vane, you will join us. The sapphire, it must be whole. The chapel, a small stone building tucked behind the rose garden, was a haven of quiet, its stained glass windows casting crimson and gold across the pews. A marble altar stood at the far end, adorned with a carved rose. Poirot approached, the brass key in hand, and found a small slot in the rose's heart. The key clicked, and a panel slid open, revealing a velvet pouch containing the third sapphire fragment, its glow matching the others, and a note. The star shines for the worthy. Andia, Poirot breathed, holding the fragment aloft. The star of Lahore, almost complete. Before they could celebrate, a shadow loomed in the chapel doorway, a man in a fedora, scarred cheek glinting, a pistol in his hand. Hand it over, Poirot, he growled, his voice rough, the air sharp with Turkish tobacco. The sapphire's mine. Charles lunged forward, but Poirot raised his cane, his voice calm. Monsieur Crane, I presume. You are bold, but foolish. The police, they are near, summoned by my friend Hastings. Hastings, who had slipped out during the chapel search, burst in with 2 constables, their truncheons drawn. Crane snarled, dropping the pistol as the constables seized him. You'll regret this, Poirot, he spat as they cuffed him. Back at the drawing room, Poirot assembled the 3 fragments, their glow a promise of resolution. Mademoiselle Vane, your betrayal is forgiven, for it was born of loyalty. Madame de Sapphire, it can save your manor. Monsieur Charles, your debts, they must be faced, but not with theft. Lady Eleanor nodded, her eyes soft with gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Poirot. Sell it, if you must. The manor deserves a future. Stuff the 3 crowns in, over a dinner of roast beef and claret. Poirot spread the clues. The journal, the note, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the fragments, the cigarette case, the letters, the locket, the hairpin, the prayer book. Hastings, his plate heaped, shook his head. We've got 3 pieces, Poirot, but the star's not whole. And Crane's caught, but is he the mastermind? Poirot sipped his claret, his eyes gleaming. The star, it lacks its center, Hastings. The journal, it holds the final clue. Tomorrow, we return to London to unmask the last betrayal. As they retired, a faint creak sounded outside Poirot's window, but the night was still. The chapel had unmasked Clara's betrayal, but the star of Lahore's heart remained elusive, and Poirot's resolve burned brighter than ever. Chapter 12. The final facet. The London fog clung to the streets like a whispered conspiracy, softening the clatter of hooves and the hum of early morning traffic as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings stepped from their taxi onto the polished pavement of Bloomsbury. It was a chill October dawn in 1930, the air thick with coal smoke and the faint tang of brewing tea from nearby cafes. Poirot, immaculate in a tailored charcoal overcoat, his Homburg hat tilted with precision, clutched his leather portfolio, swayed, a testament to the labyrinthine mystery of the Star of Lahore's 1928 theft from Langley Manor. Inside rested a constellation of clues, a journal page allegedly penned by Agatha Christie, claiming Poirot's failure, a lavender-scented note urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns, a pearl button, a monogrammed glove, a ledger page implicating Thomas Reed, a rose-etched brass key, a sketch from Lucien Blake's Bath Shop. Sapphire. Fragments from Travar Lighthouse with a cigarette case marked CL. Letters from Lord Henry Langley. A rose-shaped locket from Reed. A hairpin from Clara Vane. A prayer book from Father Ellis. And 3 sapphire fragments. There, radiant, blew a promise of resolution. The capture of Victor Crane, the scarred loan shark trailing them, had neutralized one threat. But the journal's cryptic clue, the rose's heart, and the missing sin of the Star of Lahore hinted at a final revelation. Poirot's little gray cells buzzed, sensing the trail led to Agatha Christie herself. His hand had sparked this puzzle. Hastings, his tweed jacket creased from the train ride from Chagford, adjusted his scarf against the damp. "I say, Poirot, we've got 3 sapphire pieces. Crane's behind bars, and Clara's confessed her York theft. But the Star's not whole, and that journalist's still nagging at me. Think Christie herself is mixed up in this? Why else would her name be on that page?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes gleaming in the fog. "Mon ami, you touched the heart of the matter. Madame Christie, she is no mere bystander. Her journal, it is too precise, too deliberate. The Star of Lahore, it lacks its core, and she, I believe, holds the final facet. Stay, we visit her, and the truth, it shall be unmasked." Their journey had been a whirlwind. Devon's misty manor, Cornwall's stormy lighthouse, London's gritty Whitechapel, York's sacred cryptic, revealing fragments of the sapphire and layers of betrayal. Clara Vane's theft of the second fragment, driven by her mother's disgrace, had been forgiven, her loyalty to Margaret Vane outweighing her crime. Charles Langley's desperation, fueled by debts to Crane, had painted him as a pawn, not the mastermind. Reed's confession that Lord Henry split the sapphire, hiding pieces with Blake, Father Ellis, and the manor's fountain had brought them to the 3rd fragment, found in the chapel's rose-carved altar. Yet the sapphire remained incomplete, and the journal's authenticity gnawed at Poirot. A telegram to Chief Inspector Japp, sent from York, had confirmed Agatha Christie's residence in Bloomsbury. Kay and Poirot had secured an appointment under the guise of a literary consultation. The brass key, still untested, and the prayer book's code, "Star's heart lies in the rose's shadow," suggested a final hiding place, perhaps linked to Christie's own hand. The taxi stopped at a Georgian townhouse, its facade elegant but unassuming, its brass knocker gleaming in the dawn light. A maid, prim in a starched apron, ushered them into a parlor where bookshelves lined the walls, their spines a tapestry of mystery and adventure. Agatha Christie awaited them, a woman of 40, her brown hair neatly coiled, her eyes sharp with intellect and a hint of amusement. She rose, her tweed dress simple but stylish, and extended a hand. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," she said, her voice warm but measured. "Your telegram intrigued me. A literary matter, you said. Or is this about something more tangible?" Poirot bowed, his manner impeccable. "Madame Christie, your reputation as a weaver of mysteries precedes you. I come about a puzzle bearing your name on a journal page, claiming the theft of the Star of Lahore from Langley Manor in 1928. Under my watch, which naturellement is impossible, yet the handwriting, it is yours." In this, he produced the journal page, its rose watermark glinting, speaks of the rose's heart. You have 3 fragments of a sapphire, but the center, it eludes us. What do you know? It's Christie's. Lips quirked, her eyes assessing Poirot with the writer's curiosity. A journal page. Fascinating. I've written no such thing, Mr. Poirot, but I know of the Star of Lahore. In 1928, I visited Langley Manor for a literary soiree, researching a novel. Lord Henry Langley showed me the sapphire, boasted of its fire. After its theft, he confided in me, said he'd split it to protect it from a traitor in his circle. He gave me a piece, the center, to keep safe, knowing my penchant for puzzles. Hastings, seated on a velvet chair, leaned forward. Good Lord, you've got the center. Why not turn it over to the police? In that journal someone's forged your hand, haven't they? Christie's smile was enigmatic. The police captain would have auctioned it, and Henry wanted it preserved for his family. As for the journal, I suspect a clever imitation, someone who knows my work intimately. The centerpiece. She rose, crossing to a bookshelf, and pressed a hidden panel. A small safe opened, revealing a velvet box. Inside glowed the final sapphire fragment, larger than the others, its facets a radiant heart of blue. Here, it is, Mr. Poirot, but I warn you, its return will stir more than joy at Langley Manor. Poirot's pulse quickened, his eyes locked on the gem. Mon Dieu, madame, you have guarded it well. But the journal, it was sent to Poirot, a challenge. Who knew of your involvement? Christie's gaze darkened. Only a few Lord Henry, his valet Reed, and Margaret Vane, the housekeeper. After the theft, Henry suspected betrayal within his household. He split the sapphire and trusted me with this piece, fearing his heir Charles, or perhaps another would sell it. I kept silent, but someone has unraveled my part. Poirot produced the lavender note, its scent, faint but unmistakable. This, madame, was slipped under my door. Seek the rose's heart. It mirrors your journal's words. Do you recognize the hand? Christie studied it, her face paling. It's mine, or a perfect forgery, but I didn't write it. Someone's playing a game, Mr. Poirot, using my voice to lure you. Before Poirot could press further, a sharp crash echoed from the hollow vase, shattered on the floor. The maid screamed, and Hastings leaped up, drawing a small revolver. Poirot motioned for calm, his cane raised as he stepped into the hall. His figure darted past the window, a man, not Crane, but younger, his cap low, his coat flapping as he vanished into the fog. On the floor, beside the broken vase, lay a crumpled note. The star is whole, but the heart betrays. Poirot's eyes gleamed, his mind racing. Another player, Hastings, not Crane, but one who knows the sapphire's restoration. Madame, you are in danger. This note, it threatens, but it also reveals. We must return to Langley Manor with a final piece. Christie nodded, her composure steady. Take it, Mr. Poirot, but be wary. Henry's fear of betrayal was not idle. The Langley secrets run deep. The train back to Jackford was a tense journey, the sapphire's heart fragment heavy in Poirot's pocket. At the Three Crowns Inn, he spread the clues on his desk: the journal, the notes, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the fragments, the cigarette case, the letters, the locket, the hairpin, the prayer book, and now the final sapphire piece. Hastings, nursing a whiskey, shook his head. Christie's in on it, Poirot, but not the villain. That new note, who's this betrayer? Charles again, or someone we've missed? Poirot sipped his tisane, his eyes gleaming in the firelight. The heart betrays Hastings, but not Charles alone. The manor, it holds the final act. Tomorrow, we assemble the sapphire and unmasked the puppeteer. As they retired, a faint creak sounded outside Poirot's window. The fog, thick with unseen eyes. The final facet was theirs, but the star of Lahore's heart held one last secret, and Poirot's resolve burned to unveil it. Chapter 13. The stars reckoning. The Devon mist curled around Langley Manor like a conspirator's whisper, softening the jagged outlines of its gray turrets as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings approached in their Hyatt Daimler. It was a damp, chilly morning in late October 1930. The air heavy with the scent of wet moss and the last defiant roses clinging to life in the manor's gardens. Poirot, resplendent in a tailored black overcoat, his Homburg hat tilted with surgical precision, sat erect, his green eyes alight with the thrill of a puzzle nearing its climax. His leather portfolio, clutched tightly, brimmed with the artifacts of their investigation into the 1928 theft of the Star of Lahore sapphire. A journal page, allegedly penned by Agatha Christie, claiming Poirot's failure. A lavender-scented note urging to seek the rose's heart, but beware the thorns. A pearl button, a monogrammed glove, a ledger page implicating Thomas Reed, a rose-etched brass key, sketch from Lucien Blake's bath shop, 2 sapphire fragments from Trevorrow Lighthouse with a cigarette case marked CL, letters from Lord Henry Langley, a rose-shaped locket from Reed, a hairpin from Clara Vane, a prayer book from Father Ellis, and 3 sapphire fragments, including the heart piece entrusted to Agatha Christie herself in London. A second note found amidst a shattered vase at Christie's Bloomsbury home. The star is whole, but the heart betrays had cast a shadow over their triumph, hinting at a final betrayal lurking within the manor's walls. Poirot's little gray cells hummed, orchestrating a grand denouement to unmask the puppeteer behind the journal and the sapphires division, Captain Hastings. Gripping the steering wheel, his tweed jacket speckled with mist, shot Poirot a sidelong glance. "I say, Poirot, we've got all 4 pieces of the star, now quite the haul. But that note in London, the heart betrays. It's got me rattled. Clara's already owned up to stealing the York fragment, and Charles is a nervous wreck. With Crane out of the picture, who's left to betray us? And what's with that journal?" Christie swore she didn't write it, but it's her hand, clear as day. Poirot's mustache twitched, his smile a blade of certainty. Mon ami, the puzzle. It is nearly complete, but the final piece it is not the sapphire, but the mind behind it. The journal. It is a forgery, yet too perfect to be a stranger's work. The note. It warns of betrayal, but also guides us. Today, we assemble the Star of Lahore and summon the manor's player's lady, Eleanor, Calls, Clara, and perhaps another, unseen. The rose's heart, it is the fountain, but the betrayal, it is human. A Tiro shall reveal all. Their journey from London had been a tense blur. Agatha Christie's revelation that Lord Henry entrusted her with the sapphire's heart to protect it from a traitor, adding a layer of intrigue. The capture of Victor Crane, the scarred loan shark, had neutralized one threat. But the new note and the fleeting glimpse of a capped figure in Bloomsbury suggested another player, one who knew the sapphire was whole. The manor's caste lady, Eleanor's guarded reserve, Charles's debt-driven desperation, Clara's quest to clear her mother's name, and Reed's fearful confessions formed a web of motives. But the journal's authorship and the second note's warning pointed to a mastermind. The brass key, now proven to unlock the chapel's altar, had yielded the 3rd fragment, and Poirot suspected the fountain, with its heart-shaped stone, held a symbolic truth. He had telegraphed Inspector Japp to join them at the manor, ensuring authority for the confrontation ahead. Langley Manor loomed through the fog, its ivy-clad walls a silent sentinel of secrets, the rose garden glowing faintly in the mist. The gravel drive crunched under the damless tires, and Poirot noted a new detail, a pair of muddy boots by the side entrance, too small for Charles or Grayson, suggesting a recent visitor. "Interesting," he murmured, his pulse quickening. Grayson, the gaunt butler, met them at the door, his pale eyes flickering with unease. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice dry as autumn leaves. "Lady Eleanor is in the library with Mr. Charles and Miss Vane. They're expecting you, though not with pleasure." Poirot bowed, his manner unruffled. "Expectations, Monsieur Grayson, are the prelude to truth. Lead us, s'il vous plaît, and summon all to the library. We have a matter to conclude." The library was a cavern of shadows, its leather-bound tomes and empty glass case a reminder of the sapphire's loss. Lady Eleanor stood by the fireplace, her black silk dress stark, her silver hair pinned tightly, her gray eyes wary but resolute. Charles slouched in an armchair, his blond hair disheveled, a cigarette smoldering in his trembling hand. Clara Vane sat near a window, her auburn hair glinting under her closed hat, her rose-shaped locket a quiet accusation. The air crackled with tension, the room a stage for Poirot's final act. "Madame, Monsieur Charles, Mademoiselle Vane," Poirot began, his voice smooth but commanding. "We have journeyed for Devon, Cornwall, London, York to reclaim the Star of Lahore. Its 4 fragments, they are here." He opened his portfolio, placing the glowing sapphire pieces on a velvet cloth, their blue radiance filling the room. About the puzzle, it is not the gem alone. It's a journal claiming my failure and a note warning of betrayal have led us to this moment. The rose's heart, it is the fountain, but the true heartbeat is the mind behind this game. Who among you wrote the journal? Lady Eleanor's lips tightened, her hands clasped. "Mr. Poirot, this is absurd. The sapphire's return should end this. I know nothing of a journal." Charles stubbed out his cigarette, his voice sharp. "Nor I. You've got the pieces, Poirot. Let's sell them and be done with it. I'm not your villain." Clara's eyes glistened, her voice soft but firm. "I took the York fragment, Mr. Poirot, to clear my mother's name. But I didn't write that journal. I swear it." Poirot's cane tapped lightly, his gaze piercing. "Nan, but someone did it. Forgery, yet perfect in Madame Christie's hand. Only one with intimate knowledge of her work could craft it. In this, he produced the second note. The star is whole, but the heart betrays. It was left in London by one who knew we had the final piece." A soft creak came from the hall, and Poirot spun, his senses alert. Grayson entered, his face paler than usual, followed by a woman petite, with gray hair and sharp blue eyes, her coat damp from the mist. "Mrs. Agatha Christie," Grayson announced, his voice faltering. Hastings's jaw dropped. "Good Lord, Christie, here." Christie stepped forward, her smile wry. "Mr. Poirot, I followed you. The note in my parlor unsettled me. I realized the journal's forger must be someone close, someone who knew I held the sapphire's heart. I'm here to help unmask them." Poirot bowed, his eyes gleaming. "Madame, your presence is providential. The forger, they are in this room. Just reconstruct." He turned to the group, his voice rising. "Lord Henry split the sapphire to protect it from a traitor. Reed took one piece to Blake, another to Father Ellis, the third to the chapel, the heart to Madame Christie. The journal, it was sent to Poirot to draw me in, a challenge. But who knew of Madame's role?" He paced, his cane a metronome. "Mademoiselle Vane, your mother, Margaret, was trusted by Lord Henry. You sought her vindication, stealing the York fragment. Monsieur Charles, your debts to Crane drove you to trail us, but you are no mastermind. Madame Eleanor, you guarded the manor's secrets, but not alone." He paused, his gaze locking on Grayson. "Monsieur Grayson, you have served the Langleys. Long enough to hear Lord Henry's plans, to know of Madame Christie's involvement. You, a butler, yet a scholar of her works, with access to her manuscripts through literary circles. You forged the journal, did you not?" Grayson's face drained of color, his hands trembling. "Preposterous. I'm a servant, not a forger." "Produce the lavender note. Its scent, faint. This, it bears your touch, lavender, from the manor's garden, where you tend the roses. The second note, left in London, you dropped after breaking the vase, fleeing when seen. You knew the sapphire's pieces, guided us to them, to restore the manor's wealth. But why?" Grayson sank into a chair, his voice breaking. "For Eleanor, bankrupt, her legacy crumbling. I loved her, always. Spread. Christie's drafts mimicked her hand, sent the journal to draw you in. I left the notes hoping you'd find the pieces. The sapphires, her salvation. Lady Eleanor gasped, her eyes wide. Grayson, you did this for me. Poirot's smile was gentle. A noble motive, monsieur, but a crime. The star of Lahore, it is whole. He assembled the fragments, the sapphire glowing as one, its fire mesmerizing. Inspector Japp, he comes to take custody. Madame Eleanor, sell it. Rebuild your home. Mademoiselle Vane, your mother is cleared. Monsieur Charles, face your debts. Honorably. Japp arrived, cuffing Grayson. Christie approached Poirot, her eyes warm. You've outdone my novels, Mr. Poirot. The sapphire is safe, thanks to you. At the Three Crowns Inn, over a dinner of pheasant and claret, Poirot spread the clues. The journal, the notes, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the fragments, the cigarette case, the letters, the locket, the hairpin, the prayer book. Hastings, his plate heaped, grinned. You've done it, Poirot. The star's whole, Grayson's caught, and the manners saved. Quite a show. Poirot sipped his claret, his eyes gleaming. The reckoning, Hastings, is truth. The star of Lahore shines, and Poirot, he triumphs. As they retired, the inn was silent, the fog lifting. Chapter 14. The echoes of truth. The Devon countryside lay serene under a pale October sun, its rolling hills dappled with the last vestiges of autumn's gold, as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings drove their hired Daimler away from Langley Manor. The star of Lahore, now whole and secured in a velvet-lined case within Poirot's leather portfolio. It was a crisp morning in 1930. The air sharp with the scent of dew-soaked grass and the faint sweetness of fading roses. Poirot, immaculate in a tailored gray overcoat, his Homburg hat tilted with precision, sat erect, his green eyes reflecting a quiet triumph tempered by the weight of new questions. The portfolio brimmed with the artifacts of their investigation, a forged journal page, mimicking Agatha Christie's hand, 2 lavender-scented notes urging to seek the rose's heart and warning the star's whole, but the heart betrays. A pearl button, a monogrammed glove, a ledger page, a rosette brass key, a sketch from Lucien Blake's bath shop, a cigarette case, letters from Lord Henry Langley, a rose-shaped locket, a hairpin, a prayer book, and the 4 sapphire fragments, now united into the radiant star of Lahore, the unmasking of Grayson, the butler, as the journal's forger and orchestrator of the clues had resolved the theft. But a lingering thread, the identity of a shadowy figure glimpsed in London, not Crane, but another, suggested an epilogue. To this saga, Poirot's little gray cells hummed, sensing the echoes of truth were not yet silent. Hastings, gripping the steering wheel, his tweed jacket creased from the journey, glanced at Poirot with a mix of relief and curiosity. Well, Poirot, we've done it, Grayson's confessed. The sapphire's whole, and Lady Eleanor's got a chance to save the manor. But that chap in London, the one who smashed Christie's vase and left that note, he's still out there, isn't he? Again, the journal Grayson forged it, but how'd he get it to us in the first place? Poirot's mustache twitched, his smile a blend of satisfaction and intrigue. Mon ami, you see the ripples, but the stone that caused them remains hidden. Grayson, he was the puppeteer, driven by love for Madame Eleanor, but the delivery of the journal, the figure in Bloomsbury, these are threads yet to be tied. The star of Lahore, it shines, but its echoes, they whisper of one last secret. Today, we return to the Three Crowns Inn, and then, perhaps, to London, to find this shadow. The resolution at Langley Manor had been dramatic. Grayson's confession, born of loyalty to Lady Eleanor, had revealed his intricate plan to draw Poirot into reuniting the sapphire's fragments. Clara Vane's redemption, Charles Langley's humbled resolve to face his debts, Acacia and Agatha Christie's role as guardian of the sapphire's heart, had closed the circle of the theft. Yet the second note, left in the wreckage of Christie's parlor, and the capped figure who fled into the fog, suggested a final player, one who knew the sapphire was whole. Poirot had entrusted the star to Inspector Japp for safekeeping, with the mystery's edges frayed with this unseen presence, and he suspected a connection to the manor's past, perhaps tied to the literary circles Grayson had infiltrated to forge. Christie's journal, The Three Crowns Inn, welcomed them with the familiar creak of its oak beams and the warmth of a crackling fire, over a lunch of shepherd's pie and claret. Poirot spread the clues on a polished table: the journal, the notes, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the cigarette case, the letters, the locket, the hairpin, the prayer book. Each had played its part, but the second note, the star is whole, but the heart betrays, nagged at him. Its lavender sent a faint echo of the first. Hastings, his plate heaped, leaned back, sipping his claret. "You're brooding, Poirot. The case is solved, isn't it? Grayson's in custody, the sapphires with Japp. What's left to chase?" Kiro's eyes gleamed in the firelight, his fingers tracing the note's elegant script. "Case, Hastings, it is solved, but not complete. The journal reached us through an unknown hand posted from London, not Chagford, the figure in Bloomsbury. He was no mere thief, but one who knew our triumph. We must find him, and the truth, it will be whole." A knock at the inn's door interrupted them. The innkeeper, a ruddy-faced woman named Mrs. Tuttle, entered, holding a small parcel wrapped in brown paper, its postmarked London, dated 2 days prior. "This came for you, Mr. Poirot," she said, her voice tinged with curiosity. "No sender's name, but it smells odd, like flowers." Poirot's pulse quickened as he unwrapped the parcel, the faint scent of lavender wafting free. Inside was a single page, torn from a notebook, its handwriting a perfect mimicry of Agatha Christie's, but fresher, its ink still bold. It read, "The star shines, but the scribe remains. Find me at the quill's end, Covent Garden, midnight." A pressed rose petal, crimson and fragrant, was tucked beside it. "Good Lord, Poirot," Hastings exclaimed, peering over his shoulder. Another note. "The quill's end, that's a bookshop, isn't it? Think it's a trap?" Poirot's smile was resolute. A trap, perhaps, but also a summons. The scribe, they claimed their role. "We shall go to London, Hastings, to this quill's end, and meet our shadow." The train to London was a swift blur, the countryside fading into the city's smoky embrace. Covent Garden buzzed with evening life, flower girls hawking violets, theaters spilling light, and pubs echoing with laughter. The quill's end was a narrow bookshop, its windows glowing with gaslight, its shelves crammed with first editions and dusty manuscripts. At midnight, the shop was quiet, its door unlocked, a bell jingling softly as Poirot and Hastings entered. The air smelled of old paper and ink, with a hint of lavender lingering like a ghost. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, not young, with sharp features and gray eyes, her hair pinned under a velvet cap, her coat tailored but worn. She held a pen, its nib glinting, and her smile was both wary and defiant. "Mr. Poirot," she said, her voice low and cultured, "I've been expecting you. I'm Lydia Marsh, once a secretary to Agatha Christie, now a scribe of secrets." Poirot bowed, his gaze piercing. "Mademoiselle Marsh, you sent the journal. Oui, and this note, with its petal. You knew of the Star of Lahore, of Grayson's plan. Why play this game?" Lydia's eyes flickered, her hands steady. "I worked for Mrs. Christie in 1928 at Langley Manor's soiree. I overheard Lord Henry's plan to split the sapphire, his fear of betrayal. Grayson, he was my friend, loved Eleanor Langley desperately. When the manor faced ruin, he forged The journal, using my knowledge of Christie's hand. I helped him, sent it to you, knowing your reputation. The notes, the petal they were mine, guiding you to the truth, ensuring the sapphire's return. Hastings, gripping his revolver, frowned, guiding us. You nearly got us killed, with Crane and that cap-wearing chap in London. Why not come? Clean from the start. Lydia's smile faded. Crane was a vulture, drawn by Charles's debts. The man in Bloomsbury, my nephew, Peter, watching to ensure you found the heart. I couldn't reveal myself. Grasson's plan needed anonymity. I betrayed his trust, in a way, to save the manor. Poirot's cane tapped lightly, his mind weaving the final threads. A noble betrayal, mademoiselle, but a risk. The sapphire. It is whole, and Grayson. He is in custody. Your nephew. Where is he now? Lydia's face softened. Safe, in Bristol. He meant no harm, only to protect me. It's a star. Mr. Poirot said it. Saved the manor. That's all we wanted. Poirot nodded, his smile gentle. The manor, it shall be saved. Inspector Japp, he guards the sapphire. In your secret, it is safe with Poirot. Back at the Three Crowns Inn, over a late supper of roast lamb and claret, Poirot spread the clues one final time. The journal, the notes, the button, the glove, the ledger, the key, the sketch, the cigarette case, the letters, the locket, the hairpin, the prayer book, and the new note with its petal. Hastings, his plate heaped, grinned. You've outdone yourself, Poirot. Lydia Marsh, the scribe behind the scenes. Stars whole, the manor saved, and no more shadows. Poirot sipped his claret, his eyes gleaming. The echoes of truth, Hastings, they resonate. The star of Lahore shines, and Poirot, he has heard its song. As they retired, the inn's silence was unbroken, the mist lifting to reveal a starry sky. The sapphire's reckoning was complete, and Poirot's little gray cells rested, their work done.